Upon being reborn, the first thing I did was delete Southern City University from my college application system. Qin Shubai went to Nanjing Institute of Physical Education. I changed my application to Beijing Foreign Studies University, one heading south, one heading north, separated by over 1,700 kilometers. Just right. Before confirming my preferences, Qin Shubai sent me a message. I just finished training, and my wrist is a bit sore. While you're at it, double-check the supplementary materials from the Sports Institute for me, and make sure nothing is missed in my past life. I ended up helping him for a lifetime, just like that, out of convenience. Help him fill out his college application preferences, help him organize the training data, help him get in touch with a rehabilitation therapist, help him calm down, help him climb out of the depths. In the end, when he stood on the podium, the person he thanked was Meng Jixia. He said, "It was Jixia who stayed with me through the hardest times." And what about me? In my rented little apartment in the southern part of town, I stayed up translating materials until 3 in the morning, listening to his acceptance speech on TV. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. It was only then that I understood some people, even if you paved the way for them for 10 years, will only resent you for blocking their light in this life. I won't pave the way anymore, and I won't accompany them either. I stared at the words Beijing Foreign Studies University on the screen and clicked confirm. System prompt, volunteer submission successful. My whole body relaxed. It felt like finally crawling out of a long, endless nightmare. My phone buzzed again. Seeing that I hadn't replied, Qin Shubai called me directly. I stared at the name flickering on the screen. In my past life, I was always afraid of missing his call. Got injured during training. We lost the game. Had a fight with the coach. Had a falling out with Meng Jixia. Every time he calls me Qingji, I forget everything else. This time, I let the phone ring until the very last second before I answered it. Qin Shubai's tone was somewhat impatient. Why did it take you so long to pick up? Just finished filling out my college application. He was visibly relieved. Good, as long as it's done. Remember to go over my supplementary materials for Nanjing Sports Institute again. The coach said it's best to send them over tonight. I asked indifferently, why do you want me to look at your materials? There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Qin Shubai looked as if he didn't understand. What? I ask you. I closed the laptop. Why should I have to look at your materials? Qin Shubai was silent for a few seconds. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. Wan Qingji, what's wrong with you now? Come on, listen, I just gave him back his own life and then he thought I was crazy. I said, nothing much. You're 18 now, check the documents yourself. Qin Shubai let out a laugh. It carried a hint of helplessness. Still mad about this afternoon. I thought about it for a moment before recalling it. This afternoon, Meng Jixia took a fall in the training hall. Qin Shubai carried her to the infirmary. When I found out in my past life, I cried and angrily asked him why he didn't keep an appropriate distance, but he said that Meng Jixia was just a candidate for the team assistant, and it was pitiful that no one cared about her knee injury. The more I make a scene, the more he thinks I'm unreasonable. That evening, I still went ahead and reviewed all the materials for him. I was so worried about disturbing his rest that I didn't even dare bring up my grievances again. So stupid. I lowered my eyes and looked at the milk on the table, now cold. I'm not angry. Qin Shubai didn't believe it. Qingji, Jixia is different from you. Her family isn't well off, and it wasn't easy for her to get into the training camp. I was just giving her a hand casually. Another easy one. In my past life, I despised these two words the most. He casually helped someone out. I'll just go ahead and help him out. He casually feels sorry for others. I'll just swallow the bitterness. I said, then you might as well check your own materials while you're at it. With that, I hung up the phone. Qin Shubai called back quickly. I didn't answer. He sent a message. Wan Qingji, stop messing around. My mom is coming to your place tomorrow to discuss the graduation banquet. You're putting me in a tough spot like this. Didn't you say you'd go to South City with me? I looked at the last sentence. The fingertip paused for a long time. In my past life, I did say that. At that time, Qin Shubai received a pre-admission offer from Nanjing Institute of Physical Education and was so excited that he couldn't sleep all night. He sat on my balcony, his eyes frighteningly bright. He said, Qingji, I must go to Nanjing. I asked him, what about me? He said, of course you're coming with me. My heart is racing like crazy. I thought that was a promise. Only later did I realize that wasn't a promise. It's arranged. He went to Nanjing to chase his dreams. I'm going to Nanjing to accompany my child while they study. He was injured, and I accompanied him through his rehabilitation. He was anxious, so I stayed up with him. When rumors about him and Meng Jixia started spreading, I explained things to both families on his behalf. He became a rising star on the provincial team. I became the one growing more and more silent behind him. Later, he and Meng Jixia gave an interview together. The reporter asked him who he was most grateful to. He looked at Meng Jixia beside him, smiled very gently. Grateful to the one who stayed by my side and ran the last lap with me when I was at my worst. I sat in the audience, still holding the knee pads he forgot to take. In that moment, I finally realized, my whole life is even more laughable than his knee pads. At least when his knee pads get old, he'll replace them with new ones, but I've grown old, and he can't even be bothered to look at me. The phone screen goes dark. I didn't reply to Qin Shubai. A few minutes later, a strangely familiar profile picture popped up with a message. Meng Jixia. She sent a photo. In the photo, Qin Shubai was crouching on the training gym floor, carefully applying kinesiology tape to her knee, his fingers pressed against the edge of her calf. The movement was very gentle, as if afraid of hurting her. There is another sentence below the photo. Qingji, don't get the wrong idea. Brother Shubai was just concerned because I've been training too hard. I stared at that photo for a while. In my past life, I was so furious that my whole body trembled at the sight of it. I rushed to the training hall and had a fight with Meng Jixia. Qin Shubai dragged me out in front of the entire team. He said, "Can you stop embarrassing me?" He said, "Jixia already has it hard enough. Why do you always have to pick on her?" He said, "There's nothing between her and me. We're perfectly innocent. It's your mind that's dirty. You see filth in everything." After that day, everyone in the training camp knew I was someone who threw tantrums just because I was a childhood friend. Meng Jixia, however, was the pitiful little soul who, with red-rimmed eyes from my bullying, still spoke up for me. In this life, I won't go. I didn't even type a word to curse her, just save the photo then reply to her, "Nice shot." Meng Jixia probably didn't expect me to respond like that. After a long while, she finally sent a question mark. I didn't reply anymore. I also took a screenshot of our chat window and saved it. After doing all that, I got up and went to the living room. My dad, Wan Jinghe, hasn't gone to bed yet. Sitting on the couch, he read a sports rehabilitation report, glasses perched on the bridge of his nose. Hearing the noise, he looked up and saw me. "Done with your college applications?" I nodded. "All filled out." "South City University?" I shook my head. "Jingshi Foreign Studies University." The pen in my father's hand stopped. The living room fell silent. I thought he would ask if I had a fight with Qin Shubai. After all, everyone knows I've been chasing after Qin Shubai since I was a kid. Qin Shubai practices sprinting. I handed him water by the edge of the playground. Qin Shubai is poor at academic subjects. I organized the wrong answers to give him extra tutoring. Qin Shubai's leg injury has relapsed. I begged my dad to do a rehabilitation assessment for him. Both families took it for granted that I would eventually move to the same city as Qin Shubai. Even Aunt Qin is already preparing the graduation celebration banquet. He said once the acceptance letter arrives, they'll gather relatives and friends to celebrate together. What's all the fuss about? Amid the bustle, I packed up my life and delivered myself into the Qin family. My dad stared at me for a long time. Finally, he just asked, "Are you sure about this?" I said, "I've thought it through." He closed the report. "Then let's go to the capital city." A sudden sting hit the tip of my nose. In my past life, my father asked me the same question. At that moment, I was holding the admission page of Nanjing University, smiling as I said, "I've made up my mind. I want to be with Shubai." My father remained silent for a long time. In the end, they showed me respect. Later, life in the South City was tough for me. He came to see me. He saw me alone in my rental apartment, sorting through Qin Shubai's training materials. The kitchen was cold and untouched, with pots and pans gathering dust, while the table was piled high with contracts from my freelance translation gigs. He didn't scold me. All they did was cook me a bowl of noodles. He said, "Qingji, I used to think that as long as you followed the one you love, you wouldn't have to suffer too much." I was eating noodles, tears streaming down my face the whole time. I hadn't even finished my bowl of noodles when Qin Shubai called, asking me to bring his ankle brace to the training center. I put down my chopsticks and went right away. That was one of the moments in my past life when I wanted to slap myself awake the most. "Now, I'm looking at my dad," he whispered. "Dad, there's one more thing. Don't give him Qin Shubai's rehabilitation tracking form or the Southern Sports Academy recommendation evaluation you prepared earlier." My dad was genuinely stunned this time. Qin Shubai suffered a pulled hamstring in his right leg during his sophomore year of high school. Not recovering well, but he's got some real speed talent, and Nanjing Sports Institute has been keeping an eye on him. My dad used to be a rehabilitation consultant for the provincial team in his past life. It was he who conducted a full rehabilitation assessment for Qin Shubai. He was also the one who designed the retraining plan for Qin Shubai. Nanjing Sports Institute only placed Qin Shubai on their watch list after reviewing that report, but what happened later in the interview, Qin Shubai said it was Meng Jixia who accompanied him every day to record data and slowly help him recover. Meng Jixia, on the other hand, took the plan my father had made and played the role of a savior in front of everyone. My father's life's work, my company. In the end, they all became mere stepping stones in their love story. I don't want to give any more. My dad took off his glasses. Qingji, are you sure? I said, absolutely. His legs are his own, and so is his future. We can offer public advice, but private recommendations are out of the question. My dad was looking at me. After a long moment, he suddenly smiled, all grown up. My eyes welled up. Dad, am I too cruel? My dad put his glasses back on the coffee table. No, he said, you are not anyone's training ground. I lowered my head. Tears nearly fell. In my past life, by the time I understood those words, it was already too late. In this life there's still time. 02. The next morning, Qin Shubai was waiting for me downstairs at my apartment building. He was still in his training gear, his bangs damp with moisture. He probably came over right after morning training ended. I used to love watching him like this. The youth stood tall and straight, with clean shoulders and back, bathed in the morning light like a tree lit up by the wind. Now, looking again, it's nothing special. You can't always stare at one tree. Easy to miss the forest for the trees. Qin Shubai frowned when he saw me come out. Why didn't you answer my call last night? I walked around him and moved forward. I didn't hear that. He reached out and grabbed the strap of my school bag. Wan Qingji, I stop, get to the point. Qin Shubai's expression darkened slightly. He's probably not used to me talking to him like this. I've always been easygoing with him since childhood. He was late for training, so I waited. He was in a bad mood, so I cheered him up. He said he didn't like me getting too close to other guys, so I automatically kept my distance. He said Meng Jixia was just a friend, and I desperately tried to convince myself to believe it. I treat his words as gospel. He naturally thinks I owe him constant devotion, like a temple that must burn incense for him every single day. You didn't review the materials for me last night, he said. What does mean? It means I haven't read it. Qin Shubai was so angry that he laughed. You know the coach is coming today, right? I know. So you still, Qin Shubai. I cut him off. Why don't you take a look yourself? He opened his mouth as if to speak. For a moment, I was completely speechless. He knows how to see, just can't be bothered to look, because in my past life, all these trivial and draining matters were my responsibility. I know his training cycles, fitness test results, injury records, and academic grades better than he does. I even know exactly which muscle in his right leg tightens first every time he skips a proper stretch. But so what? When he was at his lowest, I was the one who helped him get through it. But the one he loves most is not me. One cannot burn my life as fuel. On one hand, saying the hearth was lit by someone else. Qin Shubai suppressed his anger. Qingji, are you upset because of Jixia? I said nothing. He indeed continued on his own. She fell during training yesterday, and I just put a kinesiology tape on her. There's no need for you to be so sensitive. Every time he explained himself in the past, I'd rush to prove I wasn't being petty. Not anymore, I said. You can post whoever you want. Qin Shubai furrowed his brow even tighter. What do you mean by that? Literally, he stared at me. It's as if you're meeting me for the first time. Wan Qingji, don't talk like that. I smiled slightly. What about me? He looks pale. Just then, Meng Jixia's phone call came through. Qin Shubai glanced down, and his expression visibly softened. He picked up. What's wrong? The soft, gentle voice of Meng Jixia came through the phone. Brother Shubai, am I interrupting you? And Sister Qingji, maybe I should talk to you later. I stood close enough to hear every word clearly. Qin Shubai instinctively glanced at me. No, you go ahead. Meng Jixia's voice was choked with tears. The coach asked me for yesterday's training records, but my knee still hurts and I can't make it to the office. Could you grab them for me? I'm on my way over now. Qin Shubai answered quickly. After he finished speaking, he suddenly remembered that I was still standing nearby. Qingji, I'm heading to the training center first. Could you help me with the materials tonight? Stop pouting. I almost burst out laughing. It's already like this. He actually thought I would help. I asked him, what makes you think I'm going to cover it? Qin Shubai was stunned. I yanked my backpack strap back from his hand. Qin Shubai, from today onward, your materials, your training, your legs, none of it has anything to do with me. His expression completely changed. Wan Qingji, I didn't look back. After a few steps, my phone buzzed. It's from Meng Jixia. Sister Qingji, Please don't be mad at brother Shubai, he just worries about me too much. Here's another photo. Chin Shubai's jacket, left behind at the training hall last night, was draped over her shoulders. I saved it. Screenshot blocked. Smooth moves. Done in one go. The first person I ever blocked. Even the air feels fresher. 03 When I arrived at school, the homeroom teacher was just organizing the college entrance exam files. Seeing me come in, she smiled and waved. Qingji, perfect timing, you haven't submitted the hard copy of the intent registration form for Nanjing University yet. I stopped. Teacher, I'm not going to Nanjing anymore. The homeroom teacher snapped the folder shut with a loud clap. What? Her reaction was much stronger than my dad's. That's true. In my past life, the homeroom teacher went to great lengths to get both Qin Shubai and me to go to Nanjing. She thinks this is a good thing. A sports recruit, a top scorer in academic courses, a Nanjing Sports Institute, a Nanjing University. The two families knew each other well. Let's look out for each other from now on. How perfect is that? As for my score, it was clearly enough for Beijing Foreign Studies University. As for my favorite minor language major, the best exchange program is only available in Beijing. None of this matters. They all think I can just take the loss and suffer a little, because I have good grades, because I know better, because I like Qin Shubai. Like is such a versatile catch-all phrase. Anything can be stuffed in there. The homeroom teacher lowered his voice. Qingji, did you have a fight with Qin Shubai? You can't make decisions about your college applications out of spite. I'm not being stubborn, I said. I've already filled in Beijing Foreign Studies University as my choice. She froze. Confirmed. The homeroom teacher's expression shifted repeatedly. She probably didn't expect me to be this fast. Do your parents know? My dad knows. What about the Qin family? Why should the Qin family care about my aspirations? The homeroom teacher was stumped by my question. After a moment, she sighed. You kids, always so hot-headed. Qin Shubai may be careless sometimes, but he has a good heart. You've grown up together since childhood. Don't let a minor issue ruin your future. Here we go again. Just a small matter. All the hurts from a past life are just trivial matters in others' eyes. Meng Jixia sending me intimate photos is a trivial matter. Qin Shubai asking me to apologize for her is a trivial matter. Him taking his temper out on me after getting injured in training is a trivial matter. When he received the award, he thanked Meng Jixia and forgot that I was the one who stayed by his side for 10 years. Small things, I guess. What about me? Is my life trapped in the southern city also a trivial matter? I looked at the homeroom teacher. Teacher, I just chose the school I wanted to go to. Her expression stiffened slightly. Before he could say anything more, the office door swung open. Qin Shubai stood at the door. His complexion looked even worse than it did this morning. Apparently, it has been heard. Did you change your application choices? I didn't deny it. He strode in. Which one did you fill in? The homeroom teacher was also looking at me. The gazes of the other teachers in the office also turned her way. I said calmly, Beijing Foreign Studies University. Qin Shubai's pupils contracted. Beijing City. His voice was a little hoarse. That far? I almost laughed. Is it far? In my past life, I lived in the same city as him in Nanjing. He can still go 3 months without seeing me. My fever hit 39 degrees, so I called him. He was at the training center, doing stretches with Meng Jixia. I booked a restaurant for my birthday because Meng Jixia was in a bad mood. He stayed with her and walked along the South City River for an entire night. Distance has never been an issue. The question is whether he wants to see me, I said. Beijing is pretty nice. Qin Shubai stared at me. You clearly said earlier that you were going to Nanjing. I've changed my mind now. Because of Jixia. I'm really fed up. Qin Shubai, not every decision revolves around you and Meng Jixia. A flicker of embarrassment crossed his face. The homeroom teacher quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Both of you, don't rush. Let's talk it out calmly. The application has been confirmed, but there are still follow-up steps. I cut her off. Excuse me, can I sign my paper documents now? The homeroom teacher was taken aback. It's possible, but I'll sign it now. She looked at me and finally realized that I wasn't just throwing a tantrum. She pulled the confirmation form out of the file. I signed my name, Wan Qingji, stroke by stroke, crystal clear. Qin Shubai stood nearby, his face dark and terrifying. After signing, I returned the pen to the teacher. Thank you, teacher. As I turned to leave, Qin Shubai suddenly grabbed my wrist. Come out with me. I shook him off. Just say it. Here, he lowered his voice. Don't embarrass me. How strange. So he does know what embarrassment feels like. I looked at him. I just filled in my own application. How did that embarrass you? Qin Shubai was stunned. You could hear a pin drop in the office. I didn't look at him again. As soon as I stepped out of the office, a text from an unknown number popped up on my phone. Qingji, are you really going to the capital? Brother Shubai's expression just now was really grim. This will affect his training. I didn't reply, just staring at those 3 text messages. Something suddenly came to mind. In his past life, Qin Shubai's old injury flared up for the first time on the 3rd day after the volunteer confirmation. That day, he secretly put in extra training to secure a spot for Meng Jixia as a team assistant. As a result, the injury to his right leg kept recurring. The Qin family was in complete chaos. In the end, my dad rushed to the training center overnight and conducted a new rehabilitation assessment for him. It was also from that day onward that Meng Jixia began to look into the rehabilitation plan my dad had designed for Qin Shubai. Only later, step by step, did she become the one Qin Shubai called the person who understands him best. I stopped at the end of the corridor slowly, also take a screenshot and save that unknown number. Day 3. So, there are 2 days left. Meng Jixia was about to reach out. 04 in the evening, Aunt Qin came to my house. Her name is Zhou Minglan. I used to call her Aunt Zhou. She treats me very well. She treats me so well that everyone in the neighborhood says she dotes on me like her own daughter. When we were kids, if Qin Shubai snatched my cake, she would scold him. When I was sick in middle school, she would make soup and bring it to me. During my senior year of high school, after evening study sessions, she often had Qin Shubai pick me up by bike. In my past life, I felt that the Qin family was also my home. I didn't understand until much later. Aunt Zhou truly dotes on me. It's also true that they want me to keep Qin Shubai in check. She brought a box of cherries. She started smiling as soon as she walked in. Qingji, I heard you went to school today to sign the documents. My dad poured her a cup of tea, signed it. Aunt Zhou glanced at my dad, then turned to me. Child, why did you switch to the capital city without a word? Weren't we all set on Nanjing? I am sitting on the sofa. Who said it was settled? Aunt Zhou's smile faltered slightly. You and Shubai grew up together. How could I feel at ease letting him go to Nanjing alone? I didn't say anything. She sat down beside me and took my hand. Qingji, Aunt Zhou knows that Shubai hasn't been acting right lately. I don't like that Meng Jixia either, but boys will be boys. They get confused sometimes. You're more mature than him, so don't hold it against him. In my past life, I loved hearing her say things like that every time. She would say that Qin Shubai was out of line and that I had been wronged. I just felt that at least someone in the Qin family was on my side, so I held it in, time and time again. Eventually, Aunt Zhou started trying to talk me out of it too. She said, Qingji, Shubai's heart isn't with you. No matter how hard you push, it won't make a difference. She said, Jixia has been with him for so many years. It hasn't been easy for her either. She said, why don't you just let go? Don't make it any uglier for yourself. Look, people change. Maybe it had never changed from the start. She just always took her son's side. I pulled my hand back. Aunt Zhou, I'm not holding a grudge against Qin Shubai. I just want to go to Beijing. The smile on Aunt Zhou's face faded a little. Beijing is too far away. I can adapt. What about Subai? I looked at her. He's going to college, not to exile. Aunt Zhou's face finally began to show some embarrassment. My father cleared his throat. Minglan, the child's college application choices have been finalized. Aunt Zhou looked at my dad. Xinghe, after all these years between our families, how can you bear to let Qingji travel so far all alone? My dad's tone was very flat. She's not running away alone. She's going to study. Aunt Zhou choked on her words. After a moment, she managed a faint smile. All right, let's put the college applications aside for now. We'll still go ahead with the graduation banquet in a few days as planned. We've already notified all the relatives and friends, so we can all have a meal together. The 2 kids have been close since childhood, and it'll be a good chance to bring everyone joy. What's there to be happy about? Of course I know. At the college acceptance banquet in her past life, Aunt Zhou, in front of all the relatives and friends, took out a jade plaque that had been passed down through the Qin family for generations. She said, Qingji will be treated as a daughter of our Qin family from now on. The family and friends started cheering and teasing. Someone asked if she was a daughter-in-law in a halfway sense. Aunt Zhou smiled in tacit agreement. I lowered my head in shame. Qin Shubai, however, sat nearby, looking down to reply to Meng Jixia's message. I wore that jade pendant for many years afterward like a dignified shackle. In this life, I will not wear it again. I said, I'll go to the graduation banquet. Aunt Zhou breathed a sigh of relief. That's right. I'll just say, since there are some things to discuss, we might as well clear them up when the time comes. Aunt Zhou's smile completely froze on Her face, what do you mean? I did not respond, but at that moment, the phone rang, a message from Qin Shubai. Did you say something to my mom? She just called me and yelled at me, saying that you changed your plans to go to Beijing all because of Meng Jixia, Wan Qingji. Do you really have to blow this out of proportion? I stared at the message and suddenly felt completely bored. It's not my photo of Meng Jixia. I didn't make that call. The choice of volunteer work is also my own, but according to him, I was the one making a fuss about everything. I handed my phone to Aunt Zhou. Her face changed as she read the message. That little brat. She immediately wanted to call Qin Shubai. I held her down. No need. Aunt Zhou was stunned. I take back the phone. Aunt Zhou, Qin Shubai is an adult now. Whomever he chooses to protect is his own business. Just like I no longer protect him, it is also my freedom. Aunt Zhou looked at me. A trace of panic flickering in her eyes. For the first time, she probably finally realized that I wasn't playing hard to get. It's not out of spite or jealousy. I am serious about leaving. Before leaving, she left the cherries on the coffee table. Qingji, don't be willful at the graduation banquet. I nodded. I won't be willful. I will only stay sober. After Aunt Zhou left, my dad closed the door. He looked at the box of cherries and let out a sigh. Should I throw it away? I shook my head. No need. I picked up my phone and opened the Notes app. 3 items have already been recorded inside. 1. Screenshot of the volunteer confirmation from Jing City Foreign Studies University. 2. The photos and text messages sent by Meng Jixia. 3. The chat logs where Qin Shubai requested nuclear materials from me. One more thing, evidence of Qin Shubai's old injury relapsing. If I remember correctly, Meng Jixia won't be able to resist touching my dad's rehabilitation plan soon, and my dad's email has a visitation record. At 11:17 p.m., a login alert from a different location suddenly popped up on my dad's computer in his study. Login device, Qin Shubai's phone. I stare at the screen. He let out a soft chuckle. The fish is biting. 05. I didn't immediately block that login. My dad doesn't either. He just turned the computer screen toward me. The email backend clearly shows login device, Qin Shubai's phone. Login location, near the City Sports Training Center. Login time, 23:17. Download file, initial recommendations for recovery of the right leg posterior muscle group in sprinters. Download count, 3 times. In my past life, I never looked into these things, or rather, it never even crossed my mind to check. At that time, all I knew was that Qin Shubai's old injury had flared up again. His face turned pale with pain, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Aunt Zhou came crying to beg my father. I was in such a hurry that I didn't even put my coat on properly before rushing to the training center with my dad. Later, Qin Shubai lay on the treatment bed, while Meng Jixia stood nearby with red-rimmed eyes. She said, "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have urged Brother Shubai to train extra." Qin Shubai, however, defended her. It's not her fault. I wanted to recover sooner on my own. My heart ached terribly for him. No action was taken. He didn't even ask how Meng Jixia knew about the extra training plan, nor did I ask who had given her the recovery plan she mentioned. Think about it now. I deserved every loss in my past life. I was kept in the dark, as if the lamp isn't dark enough. My dad exported the back-end logs, also saved a backup to the USB drive. This device is Qin Shubai's phone. But the person logged in may not be him. I nodded. I know, Qin Shubai is not that smart. He has never bothered with such details. The only person who could have tampered with my father's recovery documents is Meng Jixia. She was like this in her previous life, always half a step behind Qin Shubai, unassuming and unhurried, no crying, no fussing, yet she always manages to get what she wants. My dad asked, "Are you planning to tell the Qin family now?" No. I tucked the USB drive into the hidden pocket of my backpack. If I tell them now, they'll just say Meng Jixia didn't mean it. They would also say I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. They said I already knew Qin Shubai's phone password, so who's to say I didn't log in with his phone and then frame him? No matter how they spin it, it always comes back to me in the end. They are way too good at it. I'm way too familiar with it. My dad was silent for a moment. Qingji, think this through. Having the evidence in hand isn't the hard part. The real challenge is whether you can hold up when it comes down to it. I smiled. Dad, I made it through once. In my past life, I endured Qin Shubai breaking his promises to me time and again, managed to endure Meng Jixia's repeated provocations, get through that damp rental room in the southern part of the city. I endured countless nights waiting for him to turn back. It's just a pity that I was leaning in the wrong direction back then. In this life, I will no longer waste my energy waiting for him. My father looked at me. his gaze heavy. Finally, he said, okay. He opened another folder. Inside is Qin Shubai's injury tracking chart for the past 3 months. My dad opened the last one. His recovery isn't as good as people think. The posterior muscle group in his right leg is unstable, so he can't increase sprint volume anytime soon. I stare at the screen. In his previous life, Qin Shubai was injured during the extra training the day after tomorrow. Had it not been for that recurrence of his old injury, his spot on Nanjing Sports Institute's key talent development list would have been far more secure if my dad hadn't stepped in. His injuries wouldn't have healed so quickly, and now Meng Jixia has already downloaded the initial version of the proposal. All she knew was that the plan said gradually resume sprint training. Little did they know that the first edition was from 2 weeks ago. After the follow-up review, my dad has changed his opinion. She ventured into the mountains with an old map in hand. Getting lost is only a matter of time. I have no obligation to remind her, nor is it his duty to save her. 06 The next day, the training camp group chat exploded. Even though I wasn't part of the training camp, I joined their logistics group in my past life to make things easier for Qin Shubai. In this life, I haven't stepped back yet. I had just finished breakfast when someone posted a video in the group chat. In the video, Qin Shubai stood downstairs from my apartment and reached out to grab my backpack strap. All I got was a profile shot. It was from yesterday, when Qin Shubai stopped me outside my apartment building. The video had been edited. All that was left was me, stone-faced, saying, "You're training, your leg." None of that has anything to do with me. There is no preceding context for any of what follows. Why did Qin Shubai stop me? And why did he ask me to submit additional materials right before he left? Why I said that line, it was all cut out. Someone in the group chimed in quickly. Is this Subai's childhood sweetheart? That's just too harsh. Athletes dread injuries more than anything. How could she say something so provoking? I heard her dad is a physical therapist. He used to treat Subai's injuries. Did he just quit because they had a falling out? No wonder Jixia was crying so hard last night. Meng Jixia said nothing. The more she stayed silent, the more others spoke for her. After a moment, she finally sent a message. Everyone, stop blaming Sister Qingji. She might just be in a bad mood. Very familiar. In her past life, she was like this too. Let's get the fire started first. Then crying, saying don't burn it anymore. Before I could even turn off my phone, Qin Shubai's call came through. I'll take it. His tone was barely containing his anger. Did you see what's going on in the group chat? I saw that. Then why didn't you explain? I laughed. You were there. Why didn't you explain? There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Qin Shubai said, Jixia didn't mean to do it. She didn't post the video. Did I say she sent it? Wan Qingji, he seems very tired. Can you stop picking on her? She cried all night because of what you said yesterday. My fingers tightened slightly around the phone. Some words, no matter how many times you hear them, still feel as nauseating as day-old soup. I asked him, so what? Qin Shubai remained silent. I pressed on. So just because she cried all night, I have to apologize? That's not what I meant. So what do you mean? His voice trailed off. Everyone in the training camp is talking about you. Just say something to explain yourself. Make it clear that you didn't mean it that way, and give Jixia an out. Look, here we go again. They pushed me down, and I have to personally give them an out. I said, no posting. Qin Shubai froze. What? I said, don't send it. Wan Qingji, do you really want to make such a big scene of this? Qin Shubai, the video was edited, and you know it. He didn't speak. I smiled. You know, the video was edited. And you know why I said what I said, but instead of explaining, you're asking me to apologize. This isn't the first time you've done this. Qin Shubai's breath caught in his throat. I just what? Just afraid of embarrassing Meng Jixia, afraid she'd be called scheming, or just figured since I'm used to it anyway. What's one more step back? Having said it all in one breath, I actually felt calmer. Qin Shubai, I'm not backing down this time. He remained silent for a long time. Finally, his voice was hoarse. You've changed. I look out the window. Sunlight falls on the camphor tree downstairs. The leaves are so green they hurt the eyes. Yeah, I said. Finally, something's changed. After hanging up, I didn't explain in the group chat, only download and save that video. They went ahead and screen captured the entire group chat from start to finish again. The more they curse now, the more fervent they become. Then my face just got more and more sore. Nice, so the atmosphere won't feel too dull at the admission celebration. At 10 a.m., Meng Jixia texted me again. This time I used a different number. Qingji, I'm sorry. The video in the group chat wasn't something I asked them to post. I know you hate me, but Brother Shubai really cares about the chance at Nanjing Institute of Physical Education. Can you stop taking your anger out on his leg? I stared at the last sentence, found it a bit amusing. She stole the plan, she advised additional training, she used Qin Shubai's influence to boost her own reputation. In the end, he said I was taking my anger out on his leg. I didn't reply, just forwarded the text to my dad. My dad texted me back right away. Ignore them. A few seconds later, another message came through. The more anxious she gets, the more it shows she's going to use that old plan. I placed my phone face down on the table. My heart wasn't even racing at all. After you stop loving someone, the world really does become a lot quieter. There's no need to guess what he's thinking. Don't worry about whether he'll get angry. Don't let a single word from him drag you from joy into the mud. Qin Shubai was once the loudest noise in my life. I've turned the volume off now. Only then did I realize the sound of the wind is so beautiful. 07 in the afternoon, Qin's mother called me again. She wasn't as gentle today as she was yesterday. Qingji, what's really going on between you and Shubai? I am organizing the orientation materials for the new students of Jing City Foreign Studies University. Not much. What do you mean nothing much? I saw the video in the training camp group. How can you say Shubai's leg injury has nothing to do with you? I was flipping through the program brochure sent by the school. It was never a big deal. Aunt Zhou's breathing became heavy. Qingji, that was too hurtful. Your father has been treating Shubai's leg injury all along. Now your family just drops it. What will people think? I stopped moving the mouse. Aunt Zhou, my father already gave his open recommendation. A private referral is a favor, not an obligation. She was choked by my words. He quickly added, are you still upset about Meng Jixia? Don't worry, I won't let her set foot in the Qin family. I used to feel really happy when I heard that. It felt like as long as Aunt Zhou was on my side, I had already won. All I feel now is exhaustion. I said, whether she steps into the Qin's house or not has nothing to do with me. How is it not related? Aunt Zhou raised her voice a little. Qingji, you and Shubai have grown up together, and everyone has seen it. The graduation banquet is in 3 days, and all the relatives and friends will be coming. If you throw a tantrum at a time like this, how am I supposed to handle it? So that's the real point. It's not that Qin Shubai is hurtful. It's not about whether I'm sad or not. How is she supposed to handle the aftermath? I said. Then don't handle it. Aunt Zhou didn't understand. What? I'll make myself clear at the graduation banquet. She fell silent on her end. After a moment, her tone turned colder. Qingji, Aunt Zhou has always treated you like her own child, but even a child can't be too willful. Willful. I burst into laughter upon hearing that word. In my past life, the thing I feared most was being called willful, afraid that Qin Shubai would find me annoying. I'm afraid Aunt Zhou might think I'm being immature. I'm afraid my dad will think I'm a disappointment. So I swallowed all my grievances. In the end, swallowing it all left my heart moldy. In this life, I am no longer afraid. I said, Aunt Zhou, I just want to go to the university I like. Beijing Foreign Studies University is a great school, but how can we feel at ease letting you, a girl, go so far away? My dad is relieved. What about Subai? His mom's just worried, isn't she? The line went completely silent. After a long silence, Aunt Zhou finally said, why have you become so sharp-tongued when you speak now? I said calmly, I didn't strike before because I was willing to let you feel the pain. Even I was taken aback after saying that. After waking up, words really do grow teeth on their own. Aunt Zhou hung up the phone in anger. Within less than 10 minutes, a message from Qin Shubai arrived. Did you fight with my mom again? Yuvi raised her blood pressure from anger. Wan Qingji, you weren't like this before. I stared at those words. It wasn't like this before. Suddenly, it all felt utterly pointless. I shot back. The Wan Qingji from before is dead. This time, it was his turn to fall silent. He didn't send any more messages until evening. I thought he had finally calmed down. Who would have thought that at midnight, something went wrong at the training camp? Qin Shubai's old wound has flared up again. 08 The call came from Aunt Zhou. She was sobbing breathlessly. Qingji, Shubai hurt his leg. Have your dad come over here quick. I sat up, glanced at the time. 12:42 a.m. exactly the same as in the previous life. Qin Shubai was sent to the training center's medical room at this very moment. Aunt Zhou cried, he's in terrible pain. The medical room said it might be a re-injury of the posterior muscle group. Your dad knows about this. Call him over quickly. I didn't agree right away. Why does a second strain occur? Aunt Zhou paused. Heard he suddenly went off during extra training. Who told him to do extra training? Is this really the time to be asking that? She panicked. Qingji, this is a matter of life and death. How can you still be hung up on these things? Subai is in so much pain right now. Can't you just let your dad come over first? Human life is of paramount importance. A second strain is not a life or death situation, but Aunt Jo has always known how to make things sound worse than they are. In my past life, it was precisely these 4 words that scared me to death. He hadn't even changed his shoes before he went to knock on my dad's door. This time, I am at peace, Aunt Jo. My dad isn't Qin Shubai's personal doctor. The other end of the line went dead silent. After a few seconds, she asked in disbelief, "What did you say?" I repeated it once. My dad isn't Qin Shubai's personal doctor. The training center has its own team physician, and if it's serious, they go to the hospital. Aunt Jo's voice grew shrill. Wan Qingji, how can you be so heartless? I'm holding my phone. The night outside the window was pitch black, like a seamless piece of cloth. In my past life, on this very night, I was drenched in cold sweat from anxiety. Qin Shubai gripped my hand in pain. Meng Jixia stood in the corner, crying. Aunt Jo grabbed my dad's arm, begging him to find a way no matter what. Everyone is panicking, only I didn't notice. That was the first time they dragged my family into Qin Shubai's mess. Then came the second time, third time, countless times, until my life could no longer be drawn out. I said, "I'm not the ruthless one." Aunt Jo was shaking with rage. "Are you still jealous of Meng Jixia? Qingji, Shubai is this badly injured. That's exactly why you should see a doctor." She wanted to say more, but the phone was taken away from her. Qin Shubai's voice came through with pain, and with an unstoppable rage. "Wan Qingji, I didn't say anything." He is breathing heavily. "Are you really going to abandon me?" In a past life, this one sentence would have been enough to break me completely. I will cry. It breaks my heart. I will scold him for not training properly, then begged my dad to save him. But now, I just find this statement utterly absurd. Your leg injury is none of my business. Your dad can handle it. My dad has no obligation. Qin Shubai's voice was hoarse. "Do you have to do this? What kind? Are you trying to force me to bow down?" I closed my eyes for a moment. His logic is still so absurd. He is injured. He did extra training. He let others touch the recovery plan. In the end, I felt like it was me who was forcing him to bow his head. "Qin Shubai, if it hurts, just talk less," I said. He froze. I hung up the phone. My dad was already standing at my bedroom door. He was clearly woken up by the phone call too. He asked, "Is Qin Shubai injured?" I nodded. Do you want me to go?" I was silent for a moment. It would be a lie to say I'm not shaken at all. After all, Qin Shubai had occupied my heart for far too many years. Seeing him hurt, I still have a momentary reflex, like an old wound aching on a rainy day. Not fatal, but it's annoying. I looked up at my dad. "Dad, if we follow the normal procedure, what should he do?" "First, go to the hospital for imaging tests to confirm the extent of the injury. During the acute phase, apply ice and immobilize the area. Do not massage blindly, and definitely do not continue training." "Can the training center's team doctor handle this?" "We can do initial treatment. The hospital is more stable." "Then let them go to the hospital." My dad nodded. He didn't say much else, but Aunt Jo wasn't about to let it go. She made over a dozen phone calls in a row. I didn't pick up. Qin Shubai also sent a message. "Are you sure you're not coming? I'm in severe pain." "Wan Qingji, do you think I deserve this?" I'm looking at the last sentence. Type slowly. "Yes, send." The world is finally quiet. 09. The next morning, news of Qin Shubai's injury spread throughout the training camp. Along with that, another version also spread. He was said to have been recovering quite well. It was because my dad and I suddenly withdrew the rehabilitation plan, causing the training schedule to hit a gap. Meng Jixia stayed up all night sorting through old materials just to help him. The incident happened to Qin Shubai only because the materials were incomplete. How interesting. She stole the plan, but in the end, it turned into her staying up all night to help. My dad withdrew his personal recommendation, turning it into a malicious gap. Qin Shubai's unauthorized overtime training pushed him to the brink of mental instability. Under my pressure, I am sitting at the dining table having breakfast. Messages berating me in the group chat kept coming in one after another. "Wan Qingji is way too ruthless. You shouldn't joke about an athlete's legs, even in a fight. Her dad's a physical therapist, isn't he? And he still won't go at a time like this. What a cold-hearted jerk." Jixia is the one who truly cares for Shubai. She was crying all night. I took screenshots while eating. "The eggs are a bit overcooked, but it doesn't affect my mood." My dad shot me a glance. "Can you eat?" I nodded. "Smells better than yesterday." He couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, you." After breakfast, my dad handed me a document. "This is the complete version of Qin Shubai's rehabilitation plan. Each revision's modification time, reason for change, and applicable stage are clearly marked. The initial version did mention that sprint training could be gradually resumed, but the second edition clearly states high-intensity sprints and continuous acceleration runs are not recommended until muscle strength test results meet the required standards. The third edition adds, if you experience nighttime soreness or morning stiffness, suspend any additional training and reassess. Meng Jixia downloaded the initial version. She probably only saw the lines she wanted to see, or maybe she noticed the subsequent reminder, but to prove his usefulness, he still let Qin Shubai practice. My dad said, keep these for now. I take it. Thanks, Dad. And another thing, he paused, the Qin family just messaged me, saying they want me to go to the training center this afternoon. Are you going? No, I was taken aback. My dad's tone was very flat. I'm not the team doctor, nor his primary physician. Besides, if I go now, the blame will ultimately fall on me. Something gently tapped at my heart. In my past life, my father passed away later. Qin Shubai recovered quite well. All the credit went to Meng Jixia, but whenever Qin Shubai ran into problems during training, the first thing the Qin family thought was that my father's plan was to blame. That's how human relationships work. It's the feeling that counts when you need it. When trouble strikes, it's a debt. I said, Dad, I'm sorry. He looked at me. Why apologize? Past life. The words were on the tip of my tongue when I suddenly stopped. I cannot speak of past lives. I had to change my tune. I used to always cause you trouble. My dad paused for a moment and ruffled my hair. You're my daughter, not a burden. My tears nearly fell into the bowl. Just then, the doorbell rang. I thought it was Aunt Zhou again. To my surprise, it was Meng Jixia standing outside the door. She was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt from the training camp, her eyes red and swollen. Looks like you didn't sleep a wink last night. Behind her stood two girls from the training camp, clearly not alone. The moment she saw me, tears started streaming down her face. Qingji, I'm sorry. I leaned against the door. I didn't let her in. What have you done wrong to me? Meng Jixia bit her lip. It's all because of me that Brother Shubai got hurt. But I was just really too worried about him. I thought it would be fine to add a bit more training load based on Uncle Ruan's previous plan. She phrased that very cleverly, admitted to using the plan but emphasized that it was the previous plan. It seems the mistake lies in the incomplete plan rather than her sneaking a peek, misusing, or making unauthorized changes. The girl behind her immediately chimed in to back her up. Wan Qingji, Jixia has already apologized. What more do you want? Subai is still lying in bed right now, and your family bears no responsibility at all. If your dad had gone sooner, things wouldn't have gotten this out of hand. I quietly watched them. Suddenly, it struck me as absurdly endearing. They are standing at my doorstep holding my dad's stolen proposal, accusing my family of lacking a sense of responsibility. Sometimes, this world feels like a warped mirror. The people in the photos all looked distorted. Meng Jixia said through tears, Sister Qingji, if you're going to blame someone, blame me, not Brother Shubai. He was in so much pain last night that he kept calling out your name. She thought those words would get to me. Unfortunately, it's no longer possible. I asked, what does he want me for? Meng Jixia was taken aback. I said, you're calling me to clean up your mess. Her face turned pale. Qingji, how could you say that? Then how should I say it? I chuckled. Should I say you logged into my dad's email using Qin Shubai's phone in the middle of the night and downloaded the outdated old version of the plan? Then you used that plan to push him into extra training. Now he's injured, and you show up crying at my doorstep, claiming you were just too worried about him. Meng Jixia's tears stopped. The two girls behind her were also stunned. I took out my phone, opened the login records saved from last night. Would you like me to recite the time, device, and downloaded file name for you? Meng Jixia's face instantly turned pale. She probably didn't expect that. Email is something like that. There will be a record. She never expected that. This time, I didn't rush to the hospital to see Qin Shubai like I did in my past life. I'm waiting for her to come to me on her own. A girl behind her asked softly, Jixia, is what she said true? Meng Jixia's tears welled up again. I just wanted to help Brother Shubai. I didn't know it would turn out like this. I nodded. Now you know. She quickly stepped forward, trying to grab my hand. Sister Qingji, could you please not tell Brother Shubai? He's already in so much pain. If he finds out it was me. I stepped back. He avoided her hand. Do you know you're the one who got him hurt? She shook her head. No, it's not my fault. I was just too anxious. I looked at her. Suddenly, countless moments like this from a past life came to mind. She never means it. It's always just too impatient, so scared, so in love, so desperate to change my Fate, and if I so much as question it, I'm the cruel one. They just don't understand. He's just using his family background to bully others in this life. I can't be bothered to play along with her act, I said. Save those words for the day after tomorrow's graduation banquet. Meng Jixia jerked her head up. What? I smiled at her. Perfect timing. All of Qin's relatives and friends are here. Everyone will listen together when the time comes. Meng Jixia's tears finally stopped falling. The two girls behind her also fell silent. Just moments ago, she was boiling with righteous fury, as if she couldn't wait to nail me to the door for her and put me on trial. Now looking up at the sky, one is looking at the land. It's as if flowers suddenly sprouted from the tiles at my doorstep. Meng Jixia forced a faint smile. Qingji, don't be like this. Her voice trembled. The college entrance banquet is a big day for you and brother Shubai. Causing a scene would be so embarrassing. I looked at her. It's not my lucky day. She froze. What? I can't be bothered to explain. The Qin family's celebration for academic success is a big day. This was the big day Aunt Zhou had set to tie Qin Shubai and me back together. This was Meng Jixia's big day for wanting to see me embarrassed while playing the victim herself, but not mine. My big day was over the moment my application was successfully confirmed. Meng Jixia still wanted to say something. I just slammed the door shut. It was quiet outside the door for a few seconds, then came the sound of her muffled sobbing. I really didn't mean to. Another girl whispered comforting words to her. Jixia, go ahead first. She's in a fit of anger right now, so there's no reasoning with her. In a fit of anger, I leaned against the door and smiled. They misunderstood. I'm not mad at all right now. I just really want to see it this time. My dad and I won't be cleaning up their mess. How far can they take their act? In the afternoon, Qin Shubai finally returned to the training center from the hospital. The injuries are not light. A second-degree strain in the posterior muscle group of the right leg. The doctor advised resting for at least 3 weeks. Unable to participate in high-intensity sprint training in the near future. In other words, his once certain spot on Nanjing Sports Institute's key training list is now hanging in the balance. When the news came, the training camp group chat was filled with wails of despair. Some people said it's a pity someone called me cold-blooded. Some people also spoke up for Meng Jixia. Jixia meant well, but that plan just doesn't fit the current situation. The key is that the Yuan family suddenly withdrew their proposal. Right, if they had made it clear earlier, things wouldn't have turned out like this. I find it a bit amusing to watch. He stole someone else's keys to open the door and fell down, and they even blamed the host for not rolling out a red carpet at the door. How novel. Qin Shubai didn't call me again, only sent one message. My mom said the graduation banquet the day after tomorrow is still on. Come here. I'm not being asked whether I'm coming. I was ordered to come in my past life. This was what I feared most from him. The colder Qin Shubai gets, the more panicked I become. If he gives me the cold shoulder for just one day, I start wondering if I was the one who went too far. After 3 days of the cold shoulder, I'll be the one to make peace. After he gave me the cold shoulder for a week, I felt like I'd tear my heart out to show him. But now, I stare at those 2 words, only replied with one. Alright. Qin Shubai probably didn't expect me to agree so readily. After a long pause, another message came through. Don't make a scene that day. I laughed. Why would I make a scene? Making a fuss is what people without evidence do. I have 11. The day before the college entrance banquet, Aunt Zhou personally brought that jade pendant. When I opened the door, her face looked much more haggard. Qin Shubai was injured, and the training camp roster was still uncertain. She must have been worried sick these past couple of days, yet as she stepped through the door, she still forced a smile. Qingji, this is the jade pendant your grandma Qin left behind. As agreed, once you and Shubai receive your admission letters, it's yours. That jade pendant was all too familiar to me. Dark green, the rim is carved with a ring of intertwined vine patterns. In my past life, I wore it for 8 years. It was only after Qin Shubai and Meng Jixia went public with their relationship that Aunt Zhou sent someone to ask me to return it. She said, after all, it was the Qin family's property. I had just returned from the southern city, so thin that my wrist could barely hold up a bracelet. I almost laughed out loud when I heard that. So it turns out that the Qin family's possessions only cease to be mine when I'm wearing them. They are only considered part of the Qin family when they return in this life. Aunt Zhou placed the jade token into my palm. Qingji, Shubai is stubborn with his words, but deep down, he does care about you. I looked down at the jade token. It felt icy cold like a small stone yoke. Is that so? Aunt Zhou nodded. He's been hurt the past couple of days. He didn't say a word, but I know he's been waiting for you to come see him. I didn't say anything in response. She let out a sigh. When young people argue, don't burn your bridges. I've already talked to Meng Jixia. She won't bother Subai anymore. have I said that already, Meng? Jixia stole the proposal in the middle of the night, persuade Qin Shubai to undergo unauthorized extra training, caused him to suffer a second strain in the end. It was just mentioned and I simply changed my mind and stopped helping. That just makes you seem willful, heartless, and inconsiderate. You really know how to prioritize. I put the jade plaque back into the box and Zhou's expression changed. Qingji, I smiled. Just leave it for now, we'll talk about it at the graduation banquet tomorrow. She stared at me, the unease in her eyes grew deeper. What exactly are you going to say tomorrow? I said. I'll say what needs to be said. And Zhou finally started to get a bit anxious. Qingji, Shubai's leg is injured right now, and he can't take any more shocks. Can't we discuss whatever you have to say privately, just between us? In my past life, I said it too many times in private. They said Meng Jixia had crossed the line. It is said that Qin Shubai should keep a distance. I said I didn't want to go to the training center and clean up their mess, saying that I also have things I want to do. Words spoken in private are never binding. After they heard me out, they nodded and tried to placate me, turn around and continue. It was only later that I understood what they fear is not hurting me. I was the one who showed my wounds to others. I said, Aunt Zhou, so many relatives and friends will be around tomorrow. It's the perfect time to clear things up and avoid any misunderstandings. Down the road, Aunt Zhou's face turned pale. She still wanted to persuade me. My dad came out of the study. Minglan, the kid has made up their mind. Aunt Zhou looked at my dad with a hint of reproach in her tone. Xinghe, you're letting her have her way too. My dad said calmly, she's not fooling around. After all these years, why must it come to this between our two families? My dad looked at her. Just because we're close doesn't mean my daughter has to live your son's life for him. Aunt Zhou was speechless. She probably never imagined my dad would put it so bluntly. After all, over the years, my dad had always been gentle. Qin Shubai's leg was injured, and he helped. Qin Shubai's training data was messy, so he helped organize it. If the Qin family needs help, he lends a hand whenever he can. A person who is always easygoing catches everyone off guard the moment they finally show their sharp edge. Aunt Zhou left without even taking the jade pendant box. She placed the box on the coffee table as if certain that I would accept it tomorrow. I opened the box and took a peek inside. Closed again. Whether they accept it or not, they'll find out tomorrow. 12. The graduation banquet is set at Jinhe Building in the city center. The Qin family booked the largest private box. A good number of relatives from both sides came over, and also the coaches and teammates from Qin Shubai's training camp, along with a few school teachers. The scale is even grander than in the previous life. In her previous life, Aunt Zhou simply wanted our relatives and friends to know that Qin Shubai and I shared a special relationship in this lifetime. She's probably afraid I'll run away, so more people were invited. They're trying to use social obligations and appearances to pressure me. When my father and I arrived, Qin Shubai was already seated at the head table. His right leg is in a brace. You look a bit pale. Meng Jixia sat in the corner by the door, eyes red and teary. When she saw me, she instinctively lowered her head as if he had suffered the greatest injustice in the world. Qin Shubai looked up at me. His gaze fell on the jade plaque box in my hand. His expression softened slightly. They probably thought that by bringing the jade token, I was showing weakness. Aunt Zhou hurried over to greet her. Qingji, you're here, have a seat, right next to Shubai. I didn't move. No need, I'll sit with my dad. Aunt Zhou's smile froze for a moment. The relatives have already looked over. Someone joked. Qingji is still shy, all grown up now. But back then you were always tagging along after Shubai. Indeed, once they're settled in Nanching, with Qingji looking after Shubai, Minglan will be at ease. Qin Shubai called my name in a low voice. Qingji. His voice was softer than it had been the past few days. Might be injured. It could also be that he finally realized he still needs my dad's resources. Come sit over here. I looked at him. The immobilization device on the right leg is fairly well secured. It shows the hospital gave plenty of reminders. It was just that hint of certainty in his eyes that still made people uneasy. He thought I would feel sorry for him. I also thought I would save the situation. I ignored him. I pulled out the chair next to my dad and sat down. The atmosphere in the private room briefly tensed up. Aunt Zhou hurriedly called for the dishes to be served. The dishes were served one after another. Everyone at the table was talking about Qin Shubai's future. They say Nanching Institute of Physical Education is great. They say that for a student athlete, the hard work finally pays off. They say he and I grew up together. It's fate. But no one ever asked me where I wanted to go or what I wanted to learn. What do you want to do in the future? That makes sense. They know perfectly well. I simply don't care. In their story, I'm just the seat next to Qin Shubai. Any seat works, but I am the best fit. After several rounds of drinks, Aunt Zhou finally stood up. She held the teacup. Her eyes slightly reddened. I've invited everyone here today for two reasons. First, to celebrate Shubai and Qingji finishing their college entrance exams, and second, to have you all witness a new beginning for these two kids." The private room instantly fell silent. I lowered my head and took a sip of tea. "The tea is a bit bitter, quite refreshing," Aunt Zhou continued. "Shubai went to Nanjing Sports Institute, and Qingji was originally planning to study there too. The two children grew up together and have always been close. Both our families, us parents, have seen it with our own eyes." Qin Shubai looked at me. I can feel his gaze on me. Meng Jisha's face was deathly pale, her hands gripping her skirt tightly. Aunt Zhou looked at the jade pendant box in my hand. I placed the box on the turntable. She opened it. A dark green jade plaque lay nestled in a red velvet cloth. A soft murmur of astonishment arose around. "This is an old heirloom from the Qin family, isn't it, for Qingji? It looks like good news is on the horizon." Auntie Zhou smiled at me. "Qingji, this jade pendant was left by Shubai's grandmother. Aunt Zhou is entrusting it to you today. From now on, you and Shubai will look out for each other in Nanjing. After you graduate from college." I set down my teacup. "Not loud, Aunt Zhou." Her voice trailed off. Everyone looked at me. I stood up. "I cannot accept this jade pendant." The private room fell silent for a moment. Aunt Zhou's smile froze on her face. Qin Shubai frowned. "Wan Qingji." I didn't look at him. "Just take out the pre-prepared document folder. The first one is the application confirmation page for Jing City Foreign Studies University." I placed it on the turntable. A gentle push. The paper was passed to Aunt Zhou. "I won't go to South City." Aunt Zhou's face suddenly changed. The relatives were also in an uproar. "Beijing City, wasn't it supposed to be Nanjing University? How has it changed?" Qin Shubai stared at the paper, his expression gradually darkening. "Did you really fill in the capital city?" I gave a faint smile. "I told you a few days ago." He seemed to have something stuck in his throat. After a long pause, he said, "Why did you have to say that in front of so many people?" I shot back, "Wasn't Auntie Zhou giving jade plaques in front of all these people too?" He choked. Aunt Zhou forced a smile to smooth things over. "Qingji, we can take our time discussing the college application. Keep the jade token for now, whether it's Beijing or Nanjing. What matters is that the two kids stay close." Still trying to gloss it over, I took out the second piece of paper. "These are excerpts from the chat logs between Qin Shubai and me over the years. He asked me to organize the materials. I was sent to deliver the protective gear. Let me explain to the coach on his behalf. He asked me to help him calm Aunt Zhou down. And that sentence from a few days ago, 'Don't make a scene that day,' I said. Aunt Zhou, Qin Shubai and I don't have the kind of relationship you think we do." Qin Shubai's face looked grim. "Wan Qingji, do you really have to dredge up the past here?" I looked at him. "It's not old scores. I'll forward the chat history. It's proof." "Prove what?" "Prove that you don't need me." I paused. "He's an on-call logistics guy." The private room fell completely silent. Qin Shubai's face alternated between pale and ashen. "Is that how you see me?" I said. "It's not how I see you. It's how you've always used me." He suddenly gripped the edge of the table tightly. A twinge of pain shot through his right leg, and his face turned even paler. Meng Jixia could no longer sit still. She stood up, her eyes red. "Sister Qingji, please don't talk about Brother Shubai like that. He's been really upset these past few days." I turned my head to look at her. "You came too." Meng Jixia's tears immediately fell. "I know you hate me. I shouldn't have come today, but Brother Shubai is injured, and I'm really worried. I just wanted to see him." She cried beautifully. Someone in the private room had a change of heart. "That little girl means well too. Qingji, let's talk in private. Subai is still injured." Qin Shubai looked at me. The voice was kept very low. "Qingji, don't drag innocent people into this." "Irrelevant," I laughed. "She is by no means irrelevant." Meng Jisha's face turned pale. "I present the third piece of evidence. Here are the video screenshots, the full original video from the training camp group chat, and the record of Meng Jisha's provocative text messages." I didn't play it immediately, just looked at Qin Shubai. "You know the video was edited, right?" Qin Shubai's face stiffened. I continued to ask, "And you know, before I said that, it was you who asked me to keep organizing the materials for you, right?" His thin lips pressed tightly together. No answer. Silence is the answer. The murmurs in the private booth gradually died down. Meng Jixia said hurriedly, "Sister Qingji, I didn't send that video." "I know." She froze for a moment. I said, "That's why I didn't say it was from you." She just breathed a sigh of relief. I continued, "I'm just saying that you send it to someone who will forward it for you." Meng Jisha's face instantly turned pale. I plugged the USB drive into the TV in the private room and opened the full surveillance footage stored on it. In the scene, Qin Shubai is blocking me. "Listen, Qin Shubai, from today onward, your materials, your training, and your leg have nothing to do with me. But before this sentence, there was also Qin Shubai's matter-of-fact remark, can you help me with the materials tonight? Don't be mad anymore. The video has finished playing. No one spoke in the private room. Even those who had spoken up for Meng Jixia fell silent. I opened the screenshot of the text message again. The messages Meng Jixia sent from different numbers were laid out one by one on the screen. Your behavior will affect his training. Could you please not take your anger out on his legs? Brother Shubai is just too worried about me. Every word and every sentence, all like little hooks in my past life. They hooked me until I was torn and bleeding. In this life, I have pinned them onto the screen. Let everyone see clearly. Meng Jixia shook her head, crying, that's not it, Sister Qingji, you've misunderstood me. I was just afraid you two would argue. I interrupted her. So you used Qin Shubai's phone to log into my dad's email in the middle of the night. Was that also because you were afraid we'd fight? Her crying stopped abruptly. Qin Shubai jerked his head up. What did you say? See? He really doesn't know. At least I don't know it this clearly. He can indulge Meng Jixia in provoking me. It can be assumed that she edits the video. I can make concessions for her sake. Little did he know, she was willing to stake his legs on her future. I'm opening the last record email backend login time equipment download file name. There is also a comparison between the old rehabilitation plan and the latest rehabilitation recommendations. Lines of text are displayed on the TV clear as a knife. I looked at Meng Jixia. The initial plan called for a gradual resumption of sprint training, but the follow-up review clearly stated that high-intensity sprints and continuous acceleration runs are not allowed until the muscle strength test is passed. You downloaded the first edition. You also used the first version to persuade Qin Shubai to do extra training. Meng Jixia's face was drained of all color. She instinctively looked at Qin Shubai. Brother Shubai, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to help you. I didn't. No, that wasn't the latest one. Qin Shubai stared at her intensely. Did you use my phone to log into Uncle Ruan's email? Meng Jixia, crying, nodded and shook her head at the same time. I just saw how badly you wanted to get on the priority list. Since Qingji wouldn't help you, I thought I'd find a way myself. That's wonderful. And at this point, you still have to twist the knife. I looked at Qin Shubai. Did you hear that? I refused to help you. So she stole. I didn't go to Nanjing. So you got hurt. I didn't handle the logistics, so all the blame could be shifted onto me. I pulled out the USB drive, put it back in the bag. Qin Shubai, aren't you all so fond of talking about feelings? Then today, I'll make those feelings crystal clear. Aunt Zhou's face turned deathly pale. It finally dawned on her. She hurriedly spoke up. Qingji, let's talk about this when we get home. With so many people around today, it's perfect with this many people. I looked at her. Aunt Zhou, weren't you just now wanting them to witness it too? Her lips trembled. I was speechless. I pushed the jade pendant box back in front of her. I don't want this jade pendant, Nanjing. I'm not going. I don't want Qin Shubai either. The private room was so quiet that the only sound was the hum of the air conditioner. Qin Shubai's face was deathly pale. His voice turned hoarse, as if he had finally realized something. Qingji, I picked up the bag. I wish you a speedy recovery. Just as I reached the door, he suddenly called out to stop me. Ruan Qingji, I stopped. No turning back. He asked, if it weren't for Meng Jixia, would you not have left? I laughed. In my previous life, Qin Shubai also asked me a similar question. By that point, I was so exhausted I couldn't even cry. He asked, if there were no Jixia, would things be better between us? I thought about it for a long time back then. The answer is actually quite simple. No, because Meng Jixia is not the reason. She just made me see the reason. In this life, I did not make him wait. I said, no, if not her, then someone else. Qin Shubai, I don't want to be your study buddy, and I don't want to be a spare tire in your life. I just want to be myself. With that, I pushed open the door and left. Behind me came the sound of a chair being knocked over, and Aunt Zhou's frantic shouts, Subai, your leg is still injured. I didn't look back. This time, he spoils his own. I'll go my own way. 13. After the college banquet, the Qin family was in chaos. The first to lose composure was Meng Jixia. The training camp approached her for a talk shortly after. She said tearfully that she only wanted to help Qin Shubai and had no idea the old plan was no longer usable, but she couldn't explain why she had to log into my dad's email using Qin Shubai's phone in the middle of the night. There's also no explanation for why she dared to advise Qin Shubai to add extra training without consulting any professionals after receiving the plan. She Couldn't explain why the selectively clipped video from the group chat appeared first on the phone of her closest teammate. The training camp is not a charity. A team can include people with average talent, but we cannot have someone who casually touches others' medical records and ends up making athletes' injuries even worse. On the third day, Meng Zhixiao was disqualified as a candidate for the team assistant. In addition, for privately sharing videos and stirring up group discussions, she was expelled from the training camp. She sent me many messages, changed my number, also changed the tone. It started with crying. Qingji, I truly know I was wrong. I never meant to harm brother Shubai. I just wanted to prove myself too badly. You've already won. Can you put in a word for me? Then came resentment. You knew all along. So why didn't you stop me? You're just waiting for me to make a mistake on purpose. Wan Qingji, what's the difference between you and me? They are completely different. She reached out to steal something. I just stood by and watched her reach her hand inside. Why should the one who caught the thief apologize on behalf of the thief? I didn't reply to her. Take screenshots of all new messages and save them. This is a good habit I developed after my rebirth. People lie. No record. 14. Qin Shubai isn't having an easy time either. Nanjing Sports Academy had indeed placed him on their shortlist for key talent development, but after his injury recurred, he hasn't been able to take any tests recently. To make matters worse, the training center reported his concealment of old injuries and unauthorized extra training. Athletes dread this the most. Talent matters. Discipline is also important. Injury and illness management is more important to a coach. An athlete who ignores medical advice and lets others meddle with the recovery plan is like a ticking time bomb. It is indeed loud, but no one dares to gamble with their future. Aunt Zhou called my dad a few times. My dad didn't answer. She sent another message. His tone dropped lower each time. Xinghe, Shubai is in a really bad state right now. We were just young and foolish back then. Please don't take it to heart. Even if you don't consider Shubai, for the sake of the long-standing bond between our two families, could you do him one more evaluation? My dad handed me his phone to show me something. They asked me, should we go back? I said, no need. My dad nodded and put his phone aside. I knew he wasn't being heartless. He just finally understood. A favor is no longer a favor when only one side is giving. It is a well that can never be filled. In our past life, our family threw too many things into the Qin family's well: time, professional, life's work, my life. In the end, I didn't even hear an echo. In this life, I won't throw it away. Just leave the well empty if it wants to be empty. 15. After the graduation banquet that day, Qin Shubai never came looking for me. I thought he finally learned to be ashamed. Unexpectedly, a week later, he pulled up in a taxi right outside my building. That day, I had just picked up the new student documents mailed from outside Beijing at the school. The school bag contained an admission letter, a program introduction, and a thin new student registration form. The July sun is scorching hot. Qin Shubai sat on a bench at the entrance of the residential community. The right leg is still in a brace. He has lost a lot of weight. He used to be full of vigor and high spirits. On the runway by the basketball court under the camphor tree in the neighborhood, he just stands there, and people around him start staring. Things are different now. He kept his head down, clutching a bottle of unopened water in his hand like an old poster softened by rain. The moment he saw me, he stood up immediately, moved too abruptly and strained the injury. His face paled for a moment. I stopped 3 steps away from him. What's up? Qin Shubai looked at me. My eyes are a little red. Qingji, can we talk? No. It was as if he already knew I was going to say that. Gave a wry smile. I won't take up too much of your time. He used to be like this. First, make the requirements sound very small, then gradually expand. Come with me to the training center. Take a look at the materials for me. Explain it to my mom for me. Wait until you graduate before you start thinking about your own affairs. Just a little bit, just a little bit. In the end, it devoured my entire life. I said, then let's talk right here. Qin Shubai looked down at his own legs. I'm off the key list in Nanjing for now. I grunted an acknowledgement. He probably didn't expect me to be so calm. Look up at me. You knew this would happen all along, didn't you? I watched him. I just know that unauthorized extra training will lead to trouble. Then why didn't you remind me? That sounds all too familiar. Meng Zhixia also asked. They all seem to think that since I know where the pitfalls are, I should cushion them before they fall in. I said. Did I warn you? Qin Shubai was stunned. I continued. I told you, your training and your legs have nothing to do with me. His face suddenly turned pale. Is that what you meant back then? What else? His Adam's apple bobbed. I thought you were mad at me. I smiled. Qin Shubai, don't flatter yourself. Not every word I say is meant to get your attention. He stared at me blankly. I was speechless for a long time. The wind rustled through the treetops. The cicadas are making a deafening racket. I suddenly recalled the summer of my past life in the southern city, even more stuffy than here, outside Qin Shubai's training center. There was also a row of camphor trees. I often sat there waiting for him, waited from afternoon until dark, waited from dusk until the street lights came on. Once, Meng Jixia came out pushing his training bag. Seeing me, she smiled and said, "Sister Qingji, Brother Shubai is too tired today and has already gone to sleep inside. Why don't you come back tomorrow?" I don't believe it. Go in and find him. But there he was, leaning back on the lounge sofa, with Meng Jixia's coat draped over him. They didn't do anything, but that place in my heart still collapsed. Later I asked him. He only said, "I was too exhausted to think." He never thought that far ahead. I'm the one who got hurt. I was the one who felt embarrassed. I am the one who was left behind. Of course he didn't have to think about it. 16. Qin Shubai pulled out a small box from his pocket. "It's that jade plaque. Aunt Zhou still had him bring it." He handed me the box. "My mom told me to give this to you." I didn't pick up. He said, "I know you said all that in anger that day." I cut him off. "No." His hand froze in midair. I looked at that box. "Qin Shubai, I don't want the jade token. I'm not going to Nanjing. The same goes for you." Something seemed to shatter in his eyes. "You weren't like this before." Same old line. I've heard it so many times that I'm sick of it. I asked him, "What was I like before?" Qin Shubai opened his mouth as if to speak. I didn't say it out loud. I said it for him. "The old me would have helped you verify the materials. I would have begged my dad to help when you got hurt. I'll explain it to your mom for you. He would endure the photos and texts Meng Jixia sent. After you give me the cold shoulder for a few days, I'll be the one to reach out and make up with you. I will go to the southern city for you." With every word I spoke, his face grew paler. In the end, he could barely look me in the eye. I asked calmly, "Qin Shubai, do you miss me, or the version of me who would do everything for you?" His fingers tightened around the jade plaque box. "Qingji, I admit I did a lot of things poorly in the past." I nodded. "It's really bad." He gave a wry smile. "You won't even say a single polite word anymore." "No need. I've already made things clear with Meng Jixia," he said hastily. "She won't be showing up around me anymore, and I won't go looking for her either." I find it a bit amusing. It was the same in my past life. Every time he and Meng Jixia get into trouble, he came and told me that it wouldn't happen again. Only later did I realize his so-called can't just means won't let me know for now. It just means he won't let me know for the time being. I said, "Whether or not you see her has nothing to do with me." "How could it have nothing to do with you?" Qin Shubai took a step forward, stopped again due to a leg injury. "Qingji, we've grown up together since childhood." Grew up together since childhood. What a useful phrase, like an old stub. They hold on to it, trying to repeatedly enter my life. I said, "So what? So we can't just let it go?" I asked, "How should it be calculated?" Qin Shubai looked at me. His eyes looked a bit panicked. "You can go to the capital city. I won't stop you. Once my leg heals, I can also take the exam for a training team near the capital. We won't have to be that far apart." In my past life, I waited many years for these words. After waiting until the very end, what came was a public interview with him and Meng Jixia. Now he finally said it, but I just want to laugh. "Qin Shubai, do you still not understand even now?" He froze. I said, "The problem isn't the distance. When I was in South City, I was close enough to you, but you've never truly seen me." Qin Shubai's eyes reddened. "I can see now." Too late. Saying those two words didn't bring me much relief after all, just light, very light, like a stone that had weighed on my chest for years, finally rolling off. Qin Shubai wanted to say something more. My dad walked out of the neighborhood. He is holding the car keys in his hand. Seeing Qin Shubai didn't come as a surprise. "Just look at me. Do you have everything?" I nodded. "Got them all. I'm going to Beijing today. It's not the official start of school. It is the freshman orientation camp for non-Beijing-based small language institutes. In my previous life, I didn't go to this preparatory camp because Qin Shubai said at that time that the Southern City Sports Academy had an early adaptation training session and asked me to go with him first. I missed the prep camp. I also missed the later information session for the college's exchange program eligibility. One wrong move. Every step is a mistake. In this life, I will make no more mistakes. Qin Shubai clearly understood as well. "Are you leaving today?" He's freaking out. "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at him. "Why should I tell you?" He was stunned by the question. "Yeah, why? He is nobody to me. I am no longer anyone to him." 17. My dad was driving on the way to the airport. I'm sitting In the passenger seat, my phone has been vibrating nonstop, sent by Qin Shubai, sent by Aunt Zhou, also sent by a few relatives I don't recognize. Qingji, Shubai admits he was wrong. Don't be too harsh, Yuri, just a young girl. Don't be so stubborn. After so many years of relationship between our two families, it's such an ugly scene to end up like this. I didn't reply to a single one. My dad glanced at the rearview mirror. Want to change your number? No need. I put my phone on silent. Keep it. Some things don't have to be thrown away right away. Put it there, take a quick glance, remind yourself how foolish you used to be. The car drove onto the airport expressway. The city outside the window is slowly receding. I suddenly recalled the night of my rebirth. The computer screen emitted a faint, eerie glow. The application system will close in just 2 hours. Qin Shubai asked me to help him review the materials. Meng Jixia sent me a photo. Everyone thought I would, just like in my past life. Obediently walked towards South City, but I don't have any. I filled in Beijing, clicked confirm. Back then, I thought rebirth meant fighting against the old self. Only later did I realize that wasn't the case. Rebirth is finally having the courage to write my own name back into my life. At the airport, my dad helped me take down the suitcase. He double-checked the admission letter and the registration form. Got your ID, phone, charger, and documents. I laughed. I brought everything. He still wasn't reassured. Text me when you arrive. Alright. At the security checkpoint, he suddenly called out to me, Qingji. I turned around. My dad looked at me. Eyes are a little red. This time, don't sell yourself short. A lump rose in my throat. Stay away from anyone who makes you unhappy. Come back whenever you want, or keep flying out there if you don't. I almost cried. Dad, I'm not a bird. He smiled. You weren't before, now it is. I dragged my suitcase through the security checkpoint. My phone buzzed while I was waiting in line. It's Qin Shubai. Qingji. I'm at the airport entrance. I looked up through the distant crowd and the glass door. He stood on the other side of the hall, leaning on his cane. Aunt Zhou helped him up. His face was pale, and his forehead was covered in sweat. He must have forced himself to come here. In my past life, seeing him like this was what I feared most, the slightest frown on his face, and my heart aches. He calls my name, and I turn around. This time, I only glanced, then I lowered my head and handed my boarding pass to the security officer. The phone rang. It was Qin Shubai calling. I'm hanging up. He messaged again. Are you really leaving me? I looked at that sentence a long time, then type yes. After the message was sent, I blocked his number, including Aunt Zhou, Meng Jixia, and those relatives who told me to be sensible. Block him too. The phone instantly fell silent, like a lake after a downpour. 18. As the plane took off, I saw the clouds outside the window, spreading out in vast expanses, dazzlingly white. I opened the freshman orientation system of Jing City Foreign Languages University homepage pop-up. Please confirm whether you will attend the freshman preparatory camp for the School of Less Commonly Taught Languages. In my past life, I never clicked that confirmation. Back then, I was sitting on the high-speed train heading to Nanjing. Qin Shubai was sleeping beside me. His training bag is weighing down my foot. There was a message from Meng Jixia on the phone. Sister Qingji, thank you for accompanying Brother Shubai to Nanjing. You're so kind. Reading that message made my heart ache terribly, yet still telling myself it's okay, things will get better. It won't get better. Not every hardship is rewarded with sweetness. Some hardships lead only to more hardship in this life. I will no longer deceive myself. I click confirm. The system quickly displayed a page. Registration confirmed successfully. It's almost identical to the college preference confirmation page from the night of my rebirth. Just this time, I'm no longer running away from anyone. I am running towards myself. A flight attendant passed by, pushing a cart. He asked if I wanted some water. I said yes. She handed me a glass of warm water. I hold it gently in my hands, watching the city grow smaller through the window. There is Qin Shubai, there's Aunt Zhou, there is Meng Jixia. Among them is the nightmare of Nanjing, a ghost I couldn't escape in my past life, but now they are all left behind beneath the clouds. Can't reach me anymore. As the plane broke through the sea of clouds, sunlight suddenly poured down, as bright as a life reborn. Story 2. My husband insisted on hiking in the sweltering heat, but this time I didn't join him. I just bought him accident insurance beforehand and stayed home alone enjoying the air conditioning. In my past life, I couldn't resist his persistent pleading and went hiking with him. Then suddenly, a massive boulder came tumbling down the mountainside. I pushed him out of the way with all my strength to save him, but I ended up being crushed by a boulder, suffering severe abdominal injuries and permanent disability in one leg. He promised verbally to repay me for saving his life and take care of me forever, yet he immediately contacted a lawyer to ask how he could get me to return his 80,000 betrothal gift. He even had the audacity to claim sole ownership of the fruit store we opened together. His excuse was that my Abdominal injury left me infertile, making me unable to carry on his family line. When I confronted him, he even denied that I had saved his life. He also blamed me for taking him hiking, saying the accident was entirely my fault. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn to the day he suggested we go hiking. Gu Lin held onto my arm and gave it a gentle shake. Honey, let's just go hiking this once. I've heard the mountain offers breathtaking views with clouds and mist swirling amidst radiant sunsets. I looked down at my right leg. That hideous scar had vanished. The dull ache in my stomach was gone too. Gu Lin was still alive, with both legs intact. He never managed to persuade me, but when I told him he could go hiking alone, his face lit up with disbelief and joy. Then he planted a kiss right on my forehead. Thanks, honey, you're the best, I scoffed, but my heart was a tangled mess of emotions. I'd secretly taken out a deluxe premium accident insurance policy on him, just waiting for the big payout to roll in my previous life. Intoxicated with newlywed bliss, I agreed to go out with Gu Lin despite the scorching heat. Halfway up the mountain, massive boulders suddenly came tumbling down the slopes. It happened so abruptly there was no time to react. At that critical moment, I shoved Gu Lin out of harm's way without regard for my own safety. The accident left me with severe abdominal injuries and robbed me of my ability to bear children. My right leg was crushed by a boulder, leaving me permanently disabled. Gu Lin escaped, mostly unscathed, sustaining only minor scratches on his arm. At first, he held my broken body in his arms and wept with genuine anguish. He even made a vow, promising to take good care of me for the rest of his life, and swore he would never leave me even if I were bedridden forever. I believed him at first, until I realized his actions didn't match his words. During my hospital stay, the only money he contributed was 20,000 yuan when he helped me check in. The remaining medical expenses, over 200,000 yuan, were all paid from my parents' savings. He's been showing up less and less since I was hospitalized. Every time I call, he complains about his heavy workload and blames me for making him work overtime every day. I was feeling guilty until I received a private message from a concerned netizen. It was a clip from a live stream. Gu Lin made an appearance in a popular lawyer's live stream. He was asking the lawyer how to force me to return the 80,000 yuan betrothal gift and how he could take sole ownership of the fruit store we opened together. I was shaking with rage, my blood running cold. I immediately forwarded the video to Gu Lin and demanded an explanation. Not only did he show no remorse, but he also turned the tables on me. If you hadn't insisted on going on that trip, would any of this have happened? You brought this misfortune upon yourself. I had nothing to do with it. Are you trying to drag me down for the rest of my life? I was so furious I nearly passed out. My mother, heartbroken for me, went to confront them and demand justice on my behalf, but my mother-in-law turned around and accused me of being a barren hen. My mother was so furious she slapped her, and she immediately called the police, who arrested my mom and took her to the station. Gu Lin called me again, and as soon as I answered, he started screaming hysterically, "Mo Shui, have you no shame at all? How dare you send your mother to my house to insult mine? You've made her so upset she's fallen ill. If you know what's good for you, you'll come with me to get divorced today and leave with nothing. Otherwise, don't blame me for taking your mother to court," I said with a cold laugh. "Fine, come pick me up at my place. Let's go get divorced. I've endured over a year of this living hell, and I've had enough. Since he wants a divorce, I'll grant him his wish. I don't want anything, I just want him dead." He opened the door and stepped inside to find the room completely empty. Hidden behind the door, I gripped one end of my cane and swung it hard at the back of his head just in case. I had drilled this move hundreds of times. If all else failed, I could just throw my full weight at him and knock him down. Fortunately, I succeeded on the first try. He suddenly collapsed face first onto the ground, losing consciousness. I calmly took out the prepared boning knife. I furiously hacked at his thigh. I'd been carrying things with my arms every single day this past year. My biceps have grown increasingly powerful. With just a few fierce chops, I severed his entire right leg. As blood splattered across my lips, I smiled demurely. Gu Lin jolted awake from excruciating pain, only to find his hands bound tightly behind his back. I deliberately held his severed thigh before his eyes, swaying it back and forth. He let out a piercing scream, his face drained of color, and begged for mercy incessantly. "Shui, I was wrong. Let me go, and we can live peacefully from now on." "Alright, you've already taken one of my legs. We're even now." I lifted his chin with my hand and pointed the tip of the blade toward his crotch. He sneered and said, "How is that fair? You can still have children, honey. If we were in the same situation, would you still look down on me then?" He flushed with anger and humiliation. "Mo Shu Qing, you lunatic, "If you dare lay a hand on me, you'll die a gruesome death." Without a word, I swung my blade and castrated him too. He let out a blood-curdling scream with a sudden surge of strength. From nowhere, he butted me aside. He snapped the ropes, snatched his severed manhood, and hopped away on one foot, leaning on my crutch. I hobbled after him, my hand clenched the still-dripping knife. The moment the door opened, my mother-in-law saw the terrible state her son was in. Heartbroken, she started screaming at me, "You heartless jinx, you useless old hen that can't even lay an egg, look what you've done to my precious boy, my poor unfortunate child." I didn't talk back, just silently clenched my jaw and prepared to gather strength. Gu Lin saw his mother and thought he had found his savior. He desperately hopped towards his mother. I can't be bothered to chase after him anymore. Swinging my arm in a wide arc, I aimed the blade straight at his heart. I hurled it with all my might. The sharp boning knife pierced clean through his heart. Gu Lin collapsed before his mother's eyes, his gaze frozen in eternal anguish. The old woman watched in horror as I stabbed her son to death. The shock drove her completely insane. I walked up to the rooftop and leaped into the void, ended my own painful and absurd life. To my surprise, that leap actually gave me a second chance at life. In my previous life, I was left permanently disabled after going hiking with Gu Lin, and while I was hospitalized, he even went on a blind date. He shirking his responsibility to care for me and trying to leave me with nothing in the divorce. It seems the roles in our life script are about to be reversed this time around. Gu Lin, I'm curious to see how you'll handle it when the shoe is on the other foot. I made a point of reminding Gu Lin to leave early in the morning just like in his previous life. Gu Lin left the house promptly at 7 a.m. to go hiking. I went back to sleep for a while longer. I slept until a little after 9. Suddenly, someone started banging on the door like there was no tomorrow. I checked my phone and saw Gu Lin had called me over a dozen times and sent countless messages. I didn't rush to open the door. Instead, I tapped on the first voice message. Gu Lin's panicked plea for help came through. "Honey, I've had an accident on the mountain. Get someone to rescue me, quick." Seriously, shouldn't you call 911 for emergencies? What good would telling me do? The knocking continued. I swung the door open impatiently. I found myself staring straight into my mother-in-law's eyes, blazing crimson with rage. "Your husband could have been crushed to death by falling rocks, and here you are, lounging around at home, fast asleep." With that, she lunged at me, trying to strike. I had anticipated her move and swiftly dodged out of the way. She stumbled and slammed face first into the iron gate, sending blood gushing from her nose. "Oh my God, Mom, why did you wait so long to tell me about Gu Lin's accident? Take me to the hospital now." She wanted to go inside to find something to wipe her nosebleed, but I yanked her away before she could. He had to cover his nose with one hand while giving me directions the whole way too busy to bother me any further. Gu Lin's injuries weren't as serious as I had anticipated. Just like in my previous life, loss of reproductive function, plus a broken right leg. After the surgery, the doctor said to me with grave concern, "The patient's injuries are quite severe, so we need to be very mindful of our approach when communicating. Try to avoid bringing up topics that might be sensitive for the patient. It's not conducive to the recovery of the injury." I nodded in agreement again and again, following the doctor's instructions. She immediately approached Gu Lin with concern upon entering the ward and asked, "Darling, I heard the rocks hit your area too, so, can we still have children in the future? You know how much my mom has been wanting a granddaughter. If she finds out you can't have children anymore, she'll definitely cause a scene at the hospital." In my previous life, I had just gotten out of surgery. When my mother-in-law found out I couldn't have children, she immediately started screaming for Gu Lin to divorce me. She even called me a barren hen. Gu Lin just stood there silently, letting his mother cause a scene in the hospital room. I was so furious that I tore my stitches and had to stay in the hospital for another 2 weeks. While I was severely injured, he went behind my back and agreed to the blind date his mother arranged for him. Now the tables have turned. Gu Lin was livid with rage because of me. My mother-in-law overheard my words from the side. A surge of rage shot through me. She jabbed a finger at my face and screamed, "You brazen little hussy, my son isn't even cold in his grave, and you're already scheming for that. Have you no shame at all?" I wasn't the least bit angry, just stood my ground and reasoned, "Mom, how is having a baby something to be ashamed of? We both wanted this. Besides, you were an unplanned child yourself when you conceived my husband with my father-in-law." Was Grandma Gu Lin there pushing his hips back and forth? Her eyes widened in disbelief. She fled with her face flushed crimson. My gaze shifted to Gu Lin. He was now completely wrapped in bandages, unable to move a muscle. I deliberately reached for his belt. "Let me see how badly you're hurt, honey." I reluctantly sat up, accidentally pulling at the wound. Blood was seeping through the white bandage on my thigh. I blinked, covered my mouth, and put on an innocent expression. "Oh no, it's bleeding. I'll get a doctor for you." I pressed the call button by the bed and stepped out of the hospital room. Sitting on the bench in the hallway, I started calling for backup. After getting our stories straight with my mom, she rushed to the hospital room in a panic. As soon as she saw her coming, my mother-in-law rushed over to my mom to tattle. "My dear-in-law, your daughter Shui has gone completely wild." The moment Gulin was hospitalized, she started claiming my son is infertile. Now she's making a scene demanding a divorce. "If you don't rein her in now, she'll be out cuckolding my son by tomorrow." But instead of scolding me as my mother had expected, she rolled up her sleeves and started making loud, sarcastic remarks outside the hospital room. "I heard your son's manhood got snapped in two. What's the difference between an infertile man and a eunuch from the Qing dynasty anyway? Looking like a wimp was bad enough, and now he's just a limp noodle too. My daughter is supposed to give me granddaughters someday. How could she be tied down to a sterile mule who can't even sire offspring? If it were up to me, I'd have them file for divorce today so he won't hold my daughter back." My mother-in-law flushed and then went pale. She was about to retort, then it hit her. Her son was now damaged goods. I had no ground to stand on to argue with my mom, so I had to swallow my pride and bite the bullet. I forced a smile that looked more like a grimace and said to my mom, "We really shouldn't be making decisions for the young couple, dear-in-laws. Besides, they're still newlyweds. We're perfectly happy together. How could we possibly get divorced now?" Then she turned to me and said, "Shu Qing, I spoke without thinking just now. Please don't take it to heart. I'm giving you this bracelet. Both of you, listen to your mother. Live well together from now on." She slipped the solid gold bracelet from her wrist onto mine. Never thought something I yearned for so desperately in my past life would come to me so effortlessly in this one. People can be so pathetic. Before I even married into the family, Gu Lin's mother had boasted she would pass down her gold bracelet to her daughter-in-law on the wedding day. But even after Gu Lin and I got married, she never gave me that bracelet. At first I thought she'd just forgotten in the bustle, so I quietly reminded her during the wedding, but she seized on it like she'd caught me red-handed, and started loudly berating me in front of all the guests. She's not even married into the family yet, and already she's eyeing her mother-in-law's gold bracelet. "Gu Lin, is this the fine wife you chose to marry?" The guests were whispering about me, and the atmosphere became incredibly awkward. That embarrassing incident has been eating away at me ever since. It even made me start doubting myself. I wondered if I'd somehow offended her as a daughter-in-law, for her to go out of her way to embarrass me in public, but real life taught me otherwise. There's nothing wrong with me, she's just a nasty piece of work. I listed that bracelet for sale online, ended up pocketing over 10 grand for free. I immediately filed a claim with the insurance company and got the accident certified as soon as possible. Gu Lin's case qualifies as accidental disability. I'm covered by the Deluxe Supreme Plan, which has very high coverage. Based on their compensation standards, I should receive at least 1 million in payout. With the over 10,000 yuan I got from selling the bracelet, I booked a luxury cruise trip for my parents. In my past life, my parents also suffered greatly because of that terrible marriage. I ended my own life abruptly before I could give them the comfortable life they deserved. Looking back, my heart is filled with regret. Even if I didn't spend the money from selling the gold bracelet, it would still become marital property. Let my parents enjoy themselves to the fullest, for I didn't go with them. Because there are more important matters awaiting me, I will not only reclaim everything that rightfully belongs to me, but also make Gu Lin leave with nothing but the clothes on his back. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Let him experience the pain and despair I went through during my hospital stay. While I was running around managing the fruit shop, my mother-in-law kept calling to hurry me along. "Your husband is in the hospital, and you're still fussing over that fruit shop. Hurry up and take care of him." I kept making excuses until Gu Lin called. "Mo Shui, must you wait until I'm dead to come collect my corpse? We're legally married, don't you understand? You have an obligation to care for me. My mother's not getting any younger. What kind of son makes his elderly mother pull all-nighters at the hospital every single day?" Men always have this arrogant delusion of being in control. Even now, lying half-crippled in a hospital bed, he still had the nerve to boss me around. If I had possessed even half his assertiveness in my past life, I probably wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. I pretended to be vulnerable, softening my tone. "Sorry, honey, business at our fruit store has been booming lately. I simply can't get away. We can't possibly have mom come do all this manual labor." "Don't worry, I've arranged for a caregiver to assist you. Now she and mom can take turns looking after you." "I don't want any caregiver. Are you even listening to me? He's unbearably loud." I hung up before he could finish. I'm not as stingy as Gu Lin in my past life. He wanted me to leave with nothing, so he opted for a free legal consultation. I have a high school classmate who works at a prestigious law firm in Lou City. He specializes in divorce cases. Even though we haven't seen each other for years and have grown distant, she was still very warm when receiving me. At its core, social interactions among adults are essentially exchanges of interests and values. We have a classmate group chat where she often shares divorce cases that I used to consider utterly sensational. Now that it's my turn to recount my past life experiences, it doesn't even feel melodramatic anymore. I'm even confident I could land the front page headline on their official account. After stepping into her office, she had her assistant pour me a cup of hot tea. Let me get straight to the point. My husband has become disabled. How can I make him leave with nothing? This lawyer has clearly seen it all. Faced with my overly blunt and seemingly amoral opening, she didn't show much surprise. She simply asked me to provide detailed information about my marital and financial status. After I explained the specifics, she fell silent for a moment. After a moment's thought, she said to me with an apologetic smile, "Shuyi, given your circumstances, this divorce case might be difficult to win. Your husband is disabled, which makes him the vulnerable party in this situation, and was not at fault in the marriage. Even if you win the case, the most you can get is a divorce. But when it comes to property division, you're at a disadvantage. The court might even award more to your husband. So you're saying we have to make him slip up on his own? So you're saying I could walk away with nothing? Is that it?" "No, it's not necessarily about wrongdoing. The key is to demonstrate that your marital relationship has irretrievably broken down. My advice would be to start by living separately from your husband. However, the separation period must last a full year. During this time, there should be no frequent emotional communication, and any interaction should reflect the breakdown of the relationship." I shook my head helplessly. "We can't drag this out for so long. This is taking too long. Is there any way to speed this up?" Attorney Liu handed me a business card. "I'm afraid not, unless both parties are willing to proceed with the divorce. Otherwise, this situation just can't be rushed. This is my friend's business card. You could try reaching out to her." Under my puzzled gaze, she handed me a business card belonging to the director of a matchmaking agency. Another meaningful glance was cast my way. It suddenly dawned on me, since the conventional approach wasn't working, I had to find an alternative path. I went to that matchmaking agency. After explaining my purpose to the person in charge, things quickly took a turn for the better. Hong Jia, the manager, placed a stack of documents in front of me. She sprawled her arms boldly over the armchair and remarked in a tone of disbelief, "First time I've seen a wife shopping for a mistress for her own husband. You're quite the character." I gave a wry smile and quickly zeroed in on a woman from that pile of documents. "According to Sister Hong, this woman is a notorious serial homewrecker. He's a premium member of our institution. She's dead set on landing a wealthy bachelor. Your husband needs some serious image polishing, otherwise he won't even catch her eye." 5. The woman in the photo had shoulder-length wavy hair styled with a chic French fringe. Her makeup was impeccably applied yet soft in its effect. A gentle, watery smile graced her lips, with a faint dimple gracing her right cheek. She was the living image of Gu Lin's dream lover. After jotting down her number, I immediately dialed it. The woman's name was Wu Yan, 27, unmarried, and unemployed. I arranged to meet her at the coffee shop downstairs from the hospital. She was wearing a pink bubble-sleeved bodycon dress and white stiletto heels. She had a gentle and sweet appearance. She was drenched in a cloying, cheap perfume. The fragrance clung to every strand of her hair. Her hips swayed gently as she walked, drawing sidelong glances from many customers. Even I found myself a little mesmerized, let alone the men. After she settled in, I presented her with the luxury handbag I had meticulously prepared. You can tell those old guys never gave her anything decent, and here she was, over the moon just for getting a basic handbag. She grabbed my hand right away, all excited. "You're the best, sis. I'm not usually into women, but for you I'd be willing to explore my sexuality." I gasped and quickly pulled my hand back. Showed her a photo of Gu Lin. "Make this man fall for you within a month, the kind that makes him willing to divorce and leave with nothing for you. After it's done, you'll get 100 grand. Her smile suddenly vanished. Sitting up straight, she frowned and said, "He's too ugly. This'll cost extra." We spoke in unison. I yelled, 150,000, her, 110,000, she said, "Deal, 150,000 it is." I replied, "Alright, if you can deliver, I'll transfer the 150K directly to your account." Beaming with joy, she patted her chest and assured me, "Don't worry, consider it done." Her demeanor was so naive and clueless, just like a college student. "He's freaking out." I was genuinely a bit uneasy about it, but after I brought her to the hospital, she demonstrated with her actions just how deeply she understood men. I arranged for Wu Yan to enter Gu Lin's hospital room as his caregiver. She stood behind me. Before even seeing who it was, Gu Lin started yelling for them to get out. Upon hearing I'd brought a caregiver, he kept shouting for them to leave immediately. His face flushed crimson with agitation. "Mo Shui, how dare you brush me off like this? I'm confined to bed and can't move freely. What if the caregiver decides to hit me out of spite?" "I don't care. I don't want any damn caretaker. You have to stay and take care of me yourself. Get her out of here." I quietly stepped aside and nudged Wu Yan toward the hospital bed. She appeared in Gu Lin's sight, wiping her tears with such a pitiable look that it tugged at his heartstrings. The clamorous sounds of resistance around him abruptly ceased. Wu Yan suddenly knelt by the hospital bed, pleading in a voice choked with tears, "Please, I beg you, let me stay and take care of him. I'm available 247 and I would never lay a hand on anyone. My family member has a serious illness requiring special medication, and I'm also responsible for my younger brother's tuition fees." It was really hard for me to land this job. "Please, I'm begging you to let me stay." Gu Lin's expression tightened, his heart aching as he reached out to help the poor girl kneeling on the ground. The previous hostility had completely dissipated. I deliberately played hard to get, saying in a nonchalant tone, "I only agreed to let her work as a caregiver because I felt sorry for this young lady. Since you won't have her, I'll have to let her go." With that, I took Wu Yan by the arm and stood up to leave, but Wu Yan stubbornly refused to get up. She clung to Gu Lin's leg, weeping uncontrollably. "The situation is getting out of hand." Only then did Gu Lin speak up with feigned reluctance. All right, I'll take it. Is that good enough? You can stay to take care of me, but you can't just disappear every day. You need to come by every day to keep an eye on her." I murmured in agreement. From then on, I made a daily trip to the hospital after work each evening. My purpose wasn't to visit Gu Lin, but to have Wu Yan update me on the progress. On her first day at work, Wu Yan was still wearing her white work uniform. The overly loose long sleeves and pants did nothing to show off her figure. That evening, as she was pouring hot water for Gu Lin from the thermos, the lid wasn't screwed on tight, and it suddenly fell off. Scalding water splashed onto her thigh. She gasped in pain. Gu Lin consequently exempted her from the uniform requirement. When she reported the incident to me, I couldn't help but sigh with emotion. "You don't have to be so hard on yourself. I'm not covering your medical bills, you know." But she just pulled up her pant leg and gave me a radiant smile. "See, it's just makeup I applied. The bottle is filled with warm water, not hot at all." I did that to establish physical contact with him as soon as possible. Physical closeness can quickly bridge emotional distance. Sure enough, he initially resisted when I tried to change his bandages. The issue was resolved overnight. I clapped my hands and gave her a thumbs up. "You're amazing." The relationship between Gu Lin and Wu Yan was growing closer at a pace I could clearly sense. This was evident from how long I stayed with him during my hospital visits. It was like seeing the whole leopard through a single spot, revealing the bigger picture. During the first week, every time I visited the hospital, Gu Lin would pour out his grievances to me. It's not about complaining how awful the hospital food is. It's about lamenting how the illness is tormenting me beyond endurance. Every single time, they pour their heart out to me late into the night, just like a suckling infant. They tell me every little detail. I'm swamped with work at the fruit shop every day, with no energy left to listen to his complaints. Though I sat by his bedside, not a single word of his grumbling reached my ears. My thoughts drifted away with the wild geese passing by outside the window, pondering how to spend the 1.5 million insurance payout and how to cook up some pretext to transfer the fruit shop into my name. Gu Lin noticed I hadn't responded for a while. He shook my shoulder gently. "Honey, are you even listening to me? That bastard of a supervisor is trying to force me to resign because I was hospitalized. He said if I don't show up for work soon, he'll have the company fire me." I echoed his words half-heartedly. Getting fired sounds great, just perfect. My aloofness wounded his fragile pride. In a fit of rage, he shoved me away. I stumbled and fell to my knees. My forehead met Wu Yan's shoes as she entered the ward. A sharp pain shot through my knee. I lifted the hem of my skirt to look. 2 red marks stood out starkly against my pale skin. In a fit of anger, I raised my hand, swinging my arms. I struck him with both hands in rapid succession. I clawed frantically at Gu Lin's face. He held in pain, but lacked the strength to push me away. His lower body was swathed in bandages, the wounds not yet fully healed. Any sudden movement could 'Cause to tear, after leaving over a dozen bloody claw marks on Gu Lin's face, I shot Wu Yan a meaningful glance. She immediately understood and rushed over to pull me away. Gu Lin looked like a plucked sick chicken, his eyes wide with sheer terror when he looked at me. After that, I spent less and less time at the hospital. My visits became less frequent. 2 weeks later, I dropped by while running errands and caught a glimpse through the glass outside the ward. Gu Lin pulled Wu Yan into his arms as she was changing his bandages. He then wrapped an arm around her neck and planted a kiss on her cheek. Seeing she didn't resist, he grew even bolder. His hand began creeping beneath her clothes. I quietly took a few photos to preserve the evidence. Then I pretended not to have seen anything and quickly walked away from the hospital room door. By the time I got home, Wu Yan sent me an update on the new message. "I'm off to bed." I replied with "got it." She added, "Sis, he's been badmouthing you a lot lately. Listening to him makes me want to knock some sense into him. I didn't understand before why you were being so cold-hearted. Now I'm starting to get it. This guy is petty, selfish, and completely irresponsible." I reminded her, "Don't worry about defending me. Just focus on maintaining your own image. Gu Lin is no fool. He's more calculating than anyone this week. Just keep him happy. Be completely accommodating in every way. When he scolds me, you join in. You need to act like the jealous mistress resenting the wife. A week later, tell him you're pregnant. Use that to pressure him into marrying you, or threaten to terminate the pregnancy. The doctor said he's infertile. What he wants most now is a child." "Got it," Wu Yan replied. "Okay, sis, this lifetime you can count on me. We're the real deal." A week flew by in the blink of an eye. Wu Yan was steadily gaining more importance in Gu Lin's heart. No matter what I tried to discuss with him, he'd always steer the conversation back to Wu Yan. She even asked for a raise herself. "Honey, how much are you paying Yen per month? I feel this young lady is working far too hard. She's been taking care of me day and night, constantly running around. 7 You should have done these things yourself. She really bailed you out. You'd better treat her right." I let out a wry laugh. I thought to myself, she waits on you hand and foot all day, and still has to share your bed at night, working like a beast of burden and being treated like livestock. It's truly no easy life. But he shouldn't feel guilty toward Wu Yan either, because Wu Yan's 150,000 monthly salary is entirely deducted from his own assets. I've had lawyers handle the property division for the fruit shop. I sold the shop at a low price to a trusted friend, claiming it was on the verge of closure due to poor management. Then, after giving it a makeover, my parents bought it back. My friend was put in charge as the nominal operator. I secretly reimbursed Gu Lin with half of the amount, pretending it was his share of the revenue. His share of the estate was entirely depleted by hospital bills and caregiver fees. Now there's barely anything left. After all preparations were in place, Wu Yan and I devised an elaborate plan to stage a dramatic confrontation scene. The night before the storm arrived, I bought a 2-line pregnancy test online in advance. I handed it to Wu Yan. I patiently instructed, "Today is the day Gu Lin is discharged from the hospital. It's also the day we plan to close the net. You must give a performance of a lifetime. Ideally, make such a public scene that he has no choice but to marry you. If he refuses, make sure to bring the dispute to me. That way I'll have leverage over him, and winning the divorce case will be a sure thing." She gave a solemn nod. When everything was in place, Wu Yan and I arrived at the hospital one right after the other. Before heading out, I made sure to text Gu Lin. I told him I'd pick him up from the hospital, but he never got back to me. I bet Wu Yan went to his hospital room to confront him. His messages couldn't hide the guilt between the lines. "Honey, a friend of mine is in town on business. He heard I was hospitalized and insisted on visiting me. I might be discharged a few hours later than expected. Maybe don't come after all. I'll just grab a cab home later." I replied with a simple okay. Then I casually made my way into the inpatient ward, headed to room 405 where Gu Lin was staying. Inside the hospital room, Wu Yan was sitting in Gu Lin's lap, gently stroking her lower abdomen. In a blissful, honeyed voice, she asked, "Sweetheart, what do you think we should name our baby?" Gu Lin wrapped his arms around her, covering her face with tender kisses. Tone, affectionate, whatever you say. "I never thought I'd have a child of my own in this lifetime. I told you that doctor misdiagnosed me. It was just a bump from a stone, not like it shattered anything. There's no way I couldn't have children." Wu Yan happily turned and wrapped her arms around him. Then her expression shifted to one of concern. "So when are you and Shuyi getting divorced?" "The baby's getting further along now. I refuse to be the laughing stock at my own wedding." Waddling down the aisle with a baby bump, Gu Lin was currently drunk on love. He'd agree to whatever demand Wu Yan made without a second thought. "We're getting divorced the moment we get back. I've had it with that old hag. She gives me the silent treatment every day and even dares to lay hands on me. Back in the day, eh?" Vicious woman like her would have been drowned in a pig cage. Wu Yan covered his mouth and cooed in mock reproach. Knock on wood, you're about to be a father. Watch your language and build some good karma for the baby. Sister Shui has always been really kind to me. If it weren't for her introducing us, we never would have ended up together. You're the one who cheated first. Let's make this a peaceful divorce when the time comes. We're building good karma for our child. Gu Lin placed his hand on Wu Yan's lower abdomen. Alright, I'll follow your lead. I can't be bothered to argue with that shrew. Worst case, we'll just give her a bigger cut to keep her from causing trouble. The two of them were cuddled up in their own little world. I pushed the door open and walked in. I demand to know, how exactly have I made your life difficult? You, Mr. Gu. I've been running around tirelessly to find people to take care of you and manage your household affairs, and you repay me by sneaking around behind my back, having an affair with the very caregiver I hired for you. Is this how you repay me? Gu Lin was taken aback by these words, his face turning deathly pale. He stammered for a long time, unable to find the words to refute. Wu Yan also dramatically gaped, fully immersed in the experience of being caught in the act. I'm currently occupying the moral high ground. Even if I beat Gu Lin to a pulp, he wouldn't dare fight back. But I chose not to resort to such undignified methods. Instead, I called in both sets of parents. When my parents rushed in, I sat slumped on the floor, speechless and weeping helplessly. My hair was a tangled mess, perfectly embodying the image of a disheveled, discarded wife. Seeing this, my father pulled out his 7 wolves belt and started lashing out at Gu Lin with all his might. My mother then started pulling his hair. Under the mixed doubles assault, Gu Lin simply threw caution to the wind. He completely abandoned his last shreds of shame and moral principles with unjustified confidence. He declared, it's Mo Shui's fault that I cheated. She shouldn't have been so lazy and hired such a pretty caregiver to tempt me. It was just one affair. What's the big deal? My colleagues even pay for prostitutes. I asked in confusion. When it comes to being the worst, Gu Lin has always been a natural. After my mother-in-law rushed over and heard Gu Lin's outrageous remarks, she even snatched the belt from my father to teach Gu Lin a lesson. But upon hearing that Wu Yan was carrying Gu Lin's child, her attitude did a complete about-face. It's true my son was wrong to have an affair. Since things have come to this, I think it's best they get divorced. That way no one has to put up with anyone. All she cared about was carrying on the family line. As for who would bear the children, she couldn't care less. They immediately hit it off. The taxi Gu Lin hailed took the whole family straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance. Since both parties agreed to the divorce, I can't believe I forgot about the damn mandatory cooling off period. Wu Yan urged Gu Lin impatiently. I don't care. I'm moving into your house today. I've been waiting for this day for far too long. I prepared divorce papers for both of you. Once you've reached an agreement, either party can file for divorce. This prevents any back and forth disputes, and we don't have to wait 30 days. Wu Yan truly lived up to her professional standards. She actually thought of this step before I did. The property division above is clearly stated. All assets are to be split 50-50. Gu Lin and I signed the papers right then and there. I filed for divorce with the court, and Gu Lin responded to the lawsuit. On the day of the hearing, the judge first asked us to try to work things out between ourselves. Both parties unanimously refused. Gu Lin was dumbstruck when the court session began. I presented evidence of his domestic violence, proof of extramarital affairs, and medical documentation confirming his infertility. Then I tore up the signed prenuptial agreement right in the courtroom. I demanded he leave with nothing but the clothes on his back. I came fully prepared for battle. While Gu Lin was caught completely off guard, he could only produce a disability certificate in a desperate bid for the judge's sympathy. In the end, I successfully obtained a divorce through litigation. However, out of humanitarian considerations, the court still didn't strip Gu Lin of all his assets. The ruling only mandated a 60-40 split of all marital property. I got 60%, he got 40%. Gu Lin was deeply dissatisfied with the verdict and immediately filed an appeal in court. He did file an appeal, but it was rejected by the local court. The original verdict from the first trial was upheld. When Gu Lin called me, Wu Yan was shrilly mocking him. Take a look at yourself. How dare you expect me to have your child? You can't even afford underwear right now. Why should I keep this mistake? Let's break up. Don't come bothering me anymore. My brother's a karate champion. If you mess with me, he'll punch you straight into the ground. A heavy door slam echoed from the other side. I didn't want to waste any more words on Gu Lin, so I hung up the phone. He's probably slumped on the living room sofa right now, head in his hands, crying in regret. Too bad this isn't even his lowest point yet. 2 weeks later, when Gu Lin was paying for instant noodles at the supermarket, I was surprised to find my account balance was running low. I was lounging in a glass villa in the Maldives, soaking up the sun, savoring the newly purchased white wine when Gu Lin's call came through. He screamed at me hysterically, "Mo Shui, where has all my money gone? We agreed on a 60-40 split. Are you trying to pocket all of it?" I stared at the over 3 million yuan balance in my newly opened bank card plus the fruit shop's daily takings of over 5,000, replied smugly, "What are you talking about, ex-husband? Your hospital stay cost over 500,000 in total. We even sold the fruit shop to pay for your medical treatment. I've already let you live in my house. What more could you possibly want?" he exclaimed in disbelief. "But my hospital stay only cost a little over 300,000, didn't it? Where did this 500,000 in spending come from? So you did sneakily take over 100,000 extra. Give me back my money now." I picked at my fingers and spoke coldly. "Do you think nursing care comes for free? Do you think your daily luxury tonics like abalone and bird's nest cost nothing? Go ahead and sue me if you dare. Let's see who wins in court." Gu Lin was completely unaware that I had purchased insurance for him. I've kept screenshots as evidence for all documented expenses. I guarantee he won't find a single thing that's not above board. Hiring the caregiver cost 150,000, but every penny was spent on his care. I didn't gain the slightest personal benefit from any of this. Besides, he couldn't even afford the legal fees to sue me. I cut off all my contact information. I moved with my parents to start fresh in a new city. When Gu Lin showed up at my parents' house with a knife, leaning on his crutch, the security camera outside the door caught him on tape. I immediately called the police and had him put behind bars to cool off for a few days while he was stuck in jail, miserably eating prison food. I was out on a boat with my parents, experiencing the thrill of catching Atlantic bluefin tuna, all regrets and shadows left by past lives healed by the sea breeze and sunlight swept away completely. The end. Story 2. After enduring 20 years of a marriage akin to widowhood, I was unexpectedly given a second chance at life. I found myself reborn at the moment I was in the midst of divorcing Xiaoxing. The reason for our divorce was that he had secretly hired his ex-girlfriend, Jiang Mengyao, into our company and even promoted her to the position of financial director. This led to the most intense argument we had ever had. After he stormed out, I immediately went to the hospital and terminated my 3-month-old pregnancy. When I saw the calendar on the wall and realized I had returned to the year 1988, I left the bedroom with my head throbbing in pain. The living room was filled with the thick smell of tobacco. Xiaoxing was leaning back on the sofa, his legs casually resting on the coffee table, smoking one cigarette after another, the smoke swirling around his fingertips. Perhaps it was the hormonal sensitivities of pregnancy, or maybe I was just fed up with the constant smell of smoke after so many years, but I suddenly started to vomit hearing the noise. Xiaoxing looked over at me, then slowly got up and came over, his face sharp and commanding, yet his cigarette never went out. After I was done vomiting bile, I rinsed my mouth and looked up to see my younger self in the mirror, momentarily disoriented. It was the hottest time of the year in Yangqing, and there was not a breath of wind on the balcony. Xiaoxing leaned against the railing, looking utterly carefree and lax. Looking at him, I took a deep breath and said calmly, "Xiaoxing, let's get a divorce. Tomorrow morning at 10, we'll go to the civil affairs office and get it done, so we can stop tormenting each other." Without giving him a chance to reply, I continued, "I know there's nothing between you and Jiang Mengyao, but I really don't want to waste any more of my life on meaningless arguments with you. It's simply not worth it." Seeing that Xiaoxing remained silent, I looked up at him and said slowly, "I'll have the pregnancy terminated this afternoon. Let's part on good terms. After the divorce, you can be with whoever you want, be it Jiang Mengyao or any young girl from your company." Hearing this, Xiaoxing finally reacted. He stared at me intensely, as if trying to discern something from my expression. After a moment, he flicked his cigarette ash, smirked disdainfully, and said, "Liang Ji, playing hard to get doesn't suit you." I didn't have the energy to argue with him. I simply said "Oh," grabbed my peeling handbag, and headed for the door. Seeing that I was serious, Xiaoxing quickly grabbed my arm, his face darkening as he said, "Liang Ji, stop making a scene. You know very well that Jiang Mengyao and I are innocent. Do you realize how unappealing your current attitude is? My company is at a critical juncture, and I don't have time for these trivial games. Besides, you don't have a job or any savings, and yet you want to terminate my child, who gave you such courage. Could it be?" He suddenly looked at me with suspicion. I freed myself from his grasp and slapped him, laughing without anger. "Xiaoxing, do you know what I hate most about you? Your presumptuousness and self-righteousness. In my previous life, Xiaoxing had told me countless times that he and Jiang Mengyao were innocent, but I had always treated his words as nothing more than a joke. I am well aware that they have always been ambiguously involved under the guise of friendship. There's the teasing from colleagues at the company, the coincidental sharing of a glass of red wine, and the accidental physical contact. Men seem to enjoy this kind of ambiguity, and Xiaoxing is no exception. I steadied my emotions, took a deep breath, and declared resolutely, I must divorce him, and I no longer want this child either. As for the child in my womb, I admit my decision is cruel, but I truly cannot allow Xiaoxing to destroy me a second time. In my previous life, it took me nearly 10 years to realize that Xiaoxing had never loved me. His pursuit and marriage to me were merely acts of spite, driven by his bruised ego after Jiang Mengyao chose another man, the son of a factory leader, over him. Feeling humiliated and also wanting to spite Jiang Mengyao, he set his sights on me amidst the encouragement of his so-called friends. That year, 18-year-old Liang Ji was beautiful and confident, admired by many suitors, and recognized as the belle of the textile factory. She was the first girl in the factory to wear dresses and high-heeled shoes to work, and she sported large, wavy curls. I had often fantasized about my future, but all those dreams were shattered by Xiaoxing after we married, since I wasn't the woman he truly wanted to marry, and because there was never any love from the start. He never cared about my feelings. Back then, I didn't understand and would often hysterically throw things around to vent my frustrations, until I accidentally saw how he was with Jiang Mengyao. As soon as Jiang Mengyao divorced, he brought her into the company under the guise of friendship and secretly rented out the welfare apartment allocated to me and him to her. Though it was called renting, I never saw a penny. He was extremely considerate and cautious around her, making sure not to offend her in any way. Even when he was craving a cigarette, he would restrain himself if she was around. As his construction business grew larger and he became wealthier, he would take her to high-end venues and introduce her to his friends. His business partners were never aware of my existence. They only knew Jiang Mengyao as Xiaoxing's most capable assistant and his confidant. Even when I accidentally fell down the stairs and was reborn, he was still accompanying her at banquets, helping her expand her network and planning to invest in her business. In Xiaoxing's eyes, I was merely an accessory, the mother of his child, the woman who cooked for him at home, while Jiang Mengyao was the true companion he wanted by his side, his first love whom he truly wanted to marry. Whenever he faced me, Xiaoxing would always say, "You don't understand," his face often filled with disgust and impatience, and he would always storm out by slamming the door. "Do we really have to do this?" he asked, pinching the bridge of his nose with a look of impatience. "Liang Ji, you're already lucky enough. I provide for you well. You don't have to work, you don't have to socialize and drink like a subordinate. What more could you possibly want?" Because of the difficult pregnancy, I was physically weak and eventually had to quit my job at the textile factory, becoming a housewife as per Xiaoxing's suggestion. After the child was born, I was overwhelmed to the point of breaking down. My hair fell out in clumps, and I couldn't even get a good night's sleep. Yet, Xiaoxing saw all this as nothing out of the ordinary. In his eyes, I was just lying around at home every day. Xiaoxing would tell everyone, "I'm so busy outside, almost never touching the ground with my feet," while she enjoys a carefree life at home, living better than the gods themselves. While he belittled me, making me live in his shadow, he also admired Jiang Mingyao's capabilities in her career, showering her with praise. Pulling myself back to the present, I masked my emotions and nodded repeatedly. "Exactly, I'm not satisfied. So let's get the divorce proceedings started sooner rather than later. That way, you can find a little woman who depends entirely on you." Seeing this, Xiaoxing thought I was jealous. A slight smirk appeared on his face, tinged with mockery. He loosened his collar, speaking indifferently, "Since you're set on this divorce, have it your way, just don't come to regret it later." After saying this, he made an excuse about having to attend to company matters and tried to leave. "Wait, before you go, sign the agreement." After reviewing the agreement, he looked at me incredulously, his gaze hardening. Then, his face turned ashen, and through gritted teeth he said, "Liang Ji, you're really something." I smiled, the feelings mutual. Seeing Xiaoxing hesitating to sign, I said with a half-smile, "What, can't bear to part with me? Ha, you think too highly of yourself." Xiaoxing has always been a staunch male chauvinist, especially towards me, never willing to give in even a little. His hesitation was never about me, but about the child in my womb. Provoked by my words, Xiaoxing impulsively signed the divorce agreement, not giving him a chance to change his mind. I carefully placed the agreement in my bag, then calmly reminded him, then, tomorrow at 10 in the morning, at the Civil Affairs office. Before I could finish, I was interrupted by the sound of the door slamming shut violently. That was the last sound of Xiaoxing storming out, evidently infuriated. Despite multiple attempts at divorce, elder family members' advice and the growing child in my womb always held us back from finalizing it. He must have believed that I wouldn't dare to terminate the pregnancy, thinking I was desperately in love with him, which emboldened him to act without restraint. After a simple lunch, I headed to the hospital. When I left the hospital, the child was no longer in my womb in a past life. This child was very sensitive due to the unhappy marriage between me and Xiaoxing. Even the mere thought of divorce would frighten her, as Xiaoxing would threaten that I didn't want her. It was to prevent her from getting hurt again that I repeatedly yielded to Xiaoxing, stepping wrongly again and again. By the time I saw Xiaoxing clearly, my youth was gone, so I continued the struggle with Xiaoxing. Why should I step aside and let him be happy with Jiang Mengyao after achieving success? As long as I didn't divorce, I remained the legitimate Mrs. Xiao. Without love, there was still money and a superior lifestyle, and my daughter would be the sole heir to his fortune. Now reborn, I've removed this weakness myself, hoping she can have a complete family in her next life, with parents who love her, not suffering a lifetime because of us. At a time when the national economy is booming with opportunities, it's time for me to cut my losses and become the fearless Liang Ji again. Perhaps not wanting to see me, Xiaoxing did not return all evening. The next day at the Civil Affairs office, I made a phone call. He had just woken up, still faintly hearing the giggling of a woman on the other end of the phone. It was Jiang Mingyao's voice. Liang Ji, can you stop causing trouble? I was up all night and just signed a big contract. I'm really tired now. I took a deep breath and said sarcastically, tired? It seems to me like you're tired from being in bed. Xiaoxing, since we're getting a divorce, can't you wait a bit longer? Must you disgust me like this? Hearing this, the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau exchanged glances, as if they had stumbled upon some juicy gossip. Xiaoxing on the other end of the line lost his patience, chuckled mockingly, and said through gritted teeth, Liang Ji, aren't you just leveraging the baby in your belly to manipulate me? You think I won't divorce you because of the child, so you keep making a scene to feel important, right? Because of the child in your belly, I have given you enough respect. Don't go too far. It's quite annoying. Xiaoxing was too arrogant, always assuming everything was his due, never reflecting on himself. Not wanting to continue the argument, I spoke the truth. That's a pity because the child you're talking about was lost yesterday at 3 in the afternoon. As soon as I finished speaking, I heard Jiang Mingyao's pained scream, and after pushing her away, Xiaoxing was already on his way to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Half an hour later, Xiaoxing appeared. Liang Ji, how could you? Reeking of cigarettes and alcohol, his eyes bloodshot and his face ferocious, he was clearly furious to the extreme. I waved him off and took the opportunity to distance myself from him. I continued righteously, why shouldn't I? You have a mistress outside, and it's the same woman who had once abandoned you. Compared to your brainless self, I'm the lesser evil. I've told you it's not true. I promoted Jiang Mengyao because she's capable and meets my company's recruitment standards. Why must you imagine things? Xiaoxing, calming down, pinched the bridge of his nose and looked helpless, making it seem as if I was making unreasonable fuss. Seeing that bystanders were about to intervene, I coldly said, the company apartment benefits, the lipstick mark on your shirt, perfectly matching couples' outfits, every single piece of evidence. Which one have I fabricated? Xiaoxing was momentarily speechless but quickly regained his sharp tone, implying, so, you aborted my child over these misunderstandings. Liang Ji, how could you be so cruel? As for Jiang Mengyao, I have nothing to say because she and I are innocent. You're just too sensitive and making a mountain out of a molehill. He made it sound so natural, as if all my pain and breakdown over this period were just me looking for trouble. But I knew better than anyone, even if Xiaoxing wasn't cheating now, under Jiang Mingyao's deliberate approach, he had already shown tolerance towards her, almost welcoming her advances. After all, she was his unrequited first love from his youth. Jiang Mingyao's pitiful act only satisfied him more, making him feel powerful. You're wronging me. You've already signed the divorce papers, so why should I still bear children for you? It's broad daylight. What kind of daydream are you having? With the divorce papers brought out, Xiaoxing became the target of public criticism. This is your own signature. Don't deny it. You set me up. Staring at the agreement, Xiaoxing looked as if he had just realized what happened, though she phrased it as a question. Her tone was decidedly affirmative. No, I came to my senses just in time. Just because I'm carrying your child, do I deserve to suffer through pregnancy without respect, to be scorned by you as useless, incapable of anything? But don't forget, I was once a garment designer at the textile factory's drafting department, earning at least $100 a month with commissions. And I contributed half of your initial startup capital. It's because of you that I ended up like this. What are you going to compensate me with? So you blame me? He frowned deeply, his gaze filled with incomprehension as he looked at me, watching Xiaoxing, who never seemed to realize his own faults. I suddenly felt very tired. After diverting my gaze, I handed over the divorce papers to the staff and then slowly said, am I not supposed to blame you? You clearly couldn't forget Jiang Mengyao, yet you still married me. Despite my pregnancy sensitivities, my inability to eat, and my inexplicably low moods, you continued your entanglements with Jiang Mengyao, even going as far as to bring her into the company to vex me further. Don't you think you've gone too far, Xiaoxing? There's a limit to how much you can bully someone. Unable to hold back any longer, I bowed my head and started to cry. The suffocating feeling in my chest finally eased as I vented everything out. Seeing me cry, Xiaoxing was momentarily stunned. Just as he stepped forward, my retreating gestures stopped him, and he retracted his lifted foot. After a while, I hoarsely said, Xiaoxing, just let me go. Do you know, your relentless behavior right now is truly disgusting. Xiaoxing has always been arrogant. With the conversation turning to this point, how could he cling on any longer? So he scoffed coldly, glaring at me fiercely, and said, fine, let's divorce right now. Whoever backs out is a coward. The procedures were processed quickly, and within minutes, as soon as he received the divorce certificate, Xiaoxing, with a gloomy face, turned and left. I walked out of the civil affairs office, watching his departing back. I lowered my head and chuckled softly, then turned and walked in the opposite direction. After the divorce, I received 50,000 yuan, as well as the welfare apartment where Jiang Mengyao had lived. Even though I was disgusted that she had lived there, the apartment was a much better deal than just receiving cash. After all, in a few years, the property prices in Yangqing would skyrocket, resulting in a huge profit. As the news of my divorce from Xiaoxing spread throughout the textile factory, Jiang Mengyao kept playing dumb and delayed moving out. I simply hired a few strong men to go to the residential compound to help her move out, which really meant throwing all her stuff out. Stop, what are you doing? Jiang Mengyao, dressed in a white blouse and a black pencil skirt, came back from work and saw her belongings scattered all over the ground outside, instantly going mad with rage. Don't touch my things, this is breaking and entering. I'm calling the police to arrest you. She stood at the door, trying to block them, but they weren't about to listen to her and pushed her aside effortlessly. Ma'am, please step aside, we're just doing our job. Look, the mistress has come back. As they were about to finish moving everything, I walked out of the room with my arms crossed and a composed demeanor. I'm not a mistress, my relationship with him was completely innocent. Why are you accusing me like this? Jiang Mengyao retorted loudly. After hearing my call, she seemed to have received a great insult. Her eyes reddened with anger, and she looked on the verge of tears, unmoved. I rolled my eyes at her. Give me a break. If you're not Xiaoxing's mistress, then why do you get to live here without paying a penny? Hearing my words, the neighbors watching the drama started whispering among themselves. So she really didn't pay, huh? That does say something about their relationship not being normal. The mistress has moved in. No wonder Liang Ji wants a divorce. Hey, stop talking, Xiaoxing is coming, an auntie hinted quietly with a nudge of her chin as Xiaoxing approached. The surroundings instantly fell silent. He looked more haggard than I had seen him in days, his beard unshaven, and the smell of tobacco and alcohol emanating from him was overwhelming. Liang Ji, do you really need to rush things like this, right off the bat? Xiaoxing spoke up for Jiang Mengyao. Of course, I need to. Just thinking about her living in my house makes me sick to my stomach. You, feeling insulted, Jiang Mengyao looked as if she wanted to fight me on the spot, but Xiaoxing held her back. He looked at me unwaveringly, then after a moment, he slightly curled his lips and said with a light smile, all right, as you wish. After speaking, he turned to Jiang Mengyao, speaking gently, Mengyao, let me find you another place to live. I promise it'll be even better than here. While Xiaoxing was talking to Jiang Mengyao, his glances towards me felt like a challenge. Not wanting any interaction with such a lunatic, I turned my face away, just in time to see Jiang Mengyao blushing shyly, seemingly triggered by some thought. Her face turned a soft pink, and she smiled sweetly. Then I'll trouble you, Xiaoxing. Really, thank you. Without you, I don't know what I would have done." Just like that, in front of me, their conversation began to turn ambiguous. "Having been through much in my past life, I no longer cared." I shuddered and scoffed. "Disgusting. If you want to be intimate, go somewhere else and spare my eyes." Jiang Mengyao was swept away by my broom, and Xiaoxing followed closely behind her. Before leaving, his gaze at me was extraordinarily complex, and I could even sense his annoyance after hearing about my divorce from Xiaoxing. My parents insisted I remarry him, or they would disown me. A threat no different from my previous life. Spats between husband and wife are inevitable. If everyone acted like you, aborting and divorcing at the drop of a hat, wouldn't that be chaos? You're just too hot-tempered. My mother lamented as she paced in front of me. I couldn't stand it any longer and spoke harshly. "Mom, do you know Xiaoxing is still entangled with his ex? As soon as someone gets divorced, he eagerly moves in. He's already mistreated me so much, why should I demean myself?" "That's not even confirmed yet." Xiaoxing said she just ran into some trouble and he was just lending a hand. "Besides, you've been well taken care of at home during your pregnancy, not lacking anything. You've been living more happily than most." Liang Ji, sometimes in life, it's best to turn a blind eye and not be too unforgiving. She sighed. Continuing, she said, "Your father and I are getting old. In the future, you can only rely on your children and Xiaoxing, but you just had to." Sighing deeply, Liang's mother wore a face full of worry, as if I were the one who had made a mistake. Liang's father, too, sat beside her with a sullen face, remaining silent. After a long while, he finally spoke. "Marriage is no child's play. If there's a chance to reconcile, then do it. I think that young man still cares about you. He wouldn't have come to us and treated us with the respect due to in-laws otherwise." Seeing that they were both enchanted by Xiaoxing, I lost any desire to persuade them otherwise and said resolutely, "It's impossible. I've already terminated the pregnancy. How can I possibly start over with him? Everyone knows, once water is spilled, it cannot be gathered up again. In my previous life, I lacked courage, always hesitating and too easily swayed, missing out on better opportunities. If in this life I were to tread the same path, sacrificing my happiness, then I truly deserve it." Ever since I got pregnant and quit my job, Xiaoxing began to look down on me, constantly comparing me to that other woman. He treated me like a possession, something to keep around for his convenience. Supporting me wasn't enough, he also had to take care of his ex, dreaming of keeping his home intact while playing around outside. He thought too highly of himself. I know that because of my divorce, the neighbors are all laughing at me. "Don't worry, I'll be leaving Yanqing in a few days, and from then on, I'll only come back for the new year at most. That way, you won't have to see and be bothered by me." After the divorce, I thought of making my way in Jing City, which would not only distance me from Xiaoxing but also spare my parents and sister-in-law from any discomfort due to my situation. Besides, there's a distant aunt of the Liang family who had moved to Jing City, so I wouldn't be completely lost there. I bought a train ticket for tomorrow morning. I've already rented out the apartment I reclaimed, and I haven't told anyone the exact time of my departure. Living in the economically booming Yanqing, I went to a textile factory the day before leaving to wholesale some new clothing for street vending in Jing City, which is why I sought out Xiang, who had been my closest friend at the factory. Knowing I was leaving Yanqing, she was the only one who didn't try to dissuade me. Just because Xiaoxing made some money from his business after our divorce, everyone said I didn't know the good life I had and called me incapable of keeping my man's heart. "It's good for you, you should live like this," Xiang said, with a single sentence, giving me tremendous courage. Indeed, I used to be someone who dared to try anything. After finalizing our collaboration and having her help with collecting the rent, I went to a newly opened supermarket nearby, only to unexpectedly run into Xiaoxing. He was buying cigarettes, surrounded by a few sycophantic friends. "Bro Xiao, you're not really going to marry Jiang Mengyao, are you? Everyone's been talking about you two behind your backs." Xiaoxing's hand paused with the cigarette pack at these words, and when he recovered, his expression turned sour. "What nonsense are you all spouting? There's nothing between her and me." Noticing Xiaoxing's foul mood, Huang Mao hurriedly tried to smooth things over. "Right, besides, she's divorced, she's not worthy of you." Huang Mao's words, however, struck a nerve with Xiaoxing. He lashed out with a kick to Huang Mao's leg and cursed, "Who are you calling divorced? Who are you saying is divorced? Bro Xiao, don't get me wrong. I wasn't talking about you." Even after saying this, Xiaoxing was unforgiving. Huang Mao, realizing a possibility, cautiously ventured, "So, brother, are you planning to remarry your ex-wife? Seeing that Xiaoxing did not object, his mouth fell open in shock. Once he recovered, he immediately said, actually, your ex-wife is really quite good, pretty and good at managing a household. Remarrying her is indeed a good idea. I heard she hasn't found a job yet, and her family has been talking about her. Brother, you could take this chance when she's most vulnerable to pursue her again. However, before Xiaoxing could respond, the man in the floral shirt with a crew cut retorted, what's there to chase after? It's all spoiling them. You can tell you've never been married. You should know, women shouldn't be spoiled. Once you start, they'll walk all over you. Xiaoxing lit a cigarette, nodded slightly in agreement, and said, indeed, with a cold smirk. He confidently declared, so, once she suffered enough and can't take it anymore, she'll come back to me. I've got all the time in the world, I can wait. After paying, the group continued their conversation as they walked away. It wasn't until they were completely out of sight that I stepped out from the corner, my laughter tinged with irony. The next morning, I quietly headed to the train station with my luggage. After several days and nights on the train, I finally arrived in the capital city smoothly. A week later, with my grandmother's help, I rented a small house near her hut and started my life as a street vendor. Although it was hard work, people in the capital city were not short of money. Clothing and small accessories from the south were very popular here, and I usually sold out in about half a month. Seeing that I had made back my initial investment and had started to profit, I called Xiang and asked her to send another batch of new styles by train over the phone. Xiang was happy to hear that the clothes were doing well in the capital city. After discussing business, she suddenly changed the subject cheerfully. Liang Ji, have you heard about Xiaoxing and Jiang Mengyao? Caught off guard by the mention of their names, I was stunned for a moment. During this busy time, I had almost stopped thinking about the past, including my previous life. After all, one must live in the present, especially with the chance to start over. Rather than getting wrapped up in self-pity about the past, I lowered my eyes, disinterestedly asking, no. What happened? Seeing my question, Xiang, thrilled to share the gossip, excitedly said, after you left, Jiang Mengyao tried to climb up to be the real boss's wife and started seducing Xiaoxing aggressively, but for some reason, Xiaoxing was always lukewarm towards her. Recently, after she drugged him, he fired her outright. Because of the drugging, Xiaoxing ended up in the hospital, and Jiang Mengyao lost both her glossy job and her reputation. Now she's hiding at home, too ashamed to show her face. After a pause, Xiang reminded me, by the way, Xiaoxing's company is shifting its focus and planning to expand into the capital city. If you want to avoid any entanglements with him, you'd better be careful. Okay, Xiang, thank you. After hanging up, I sighed, feeling nothing but trouble ahead regarding Xiaoxing's sudden shift in business. I spared no malice in suspecting his motives. As he had always been highly purpose-driven, he must have learned about my whereabouts from my parents, but I don't understand why he just can't let me go. Could it be that he is no longer capable? The winters in Jing City are very cold. On the snow-covered streets, I started selling the currently popular down jackets and cotton coats. To avoid being lectured by relatives and friends, I decided not to return to Yangqing for the new year. Instead, I sent my parents 300 yuan for the festival expenses. On the first day of the new year, I didn't set up my stall. Instead, my aunt, who enjoys the bourgeois lifestyle, dressed me up nicely. I wore a light gray turtleneck sweater, a black coat, dark blue jeans, and a pair of short boots. My hair was simply tied up, revealing a small part of my pale neck. With light makeup on my face, I indeed looked elegant and intelligent. After replacing the earbuds on my ears with small pearl earrings, the old lady looked me over and said contentedly, money is endless, but you are at your most beautiful age. Don't waste what you have. If it were my choice, I'd dress up beautifully every day if I were still young. Unlike you, dressed in casual sportswear every day, which is quite unappealing. That's true, you're always stylish, I replied, wrapping a scarf around my neck. The old lady's aesthetic sense was truly good. With her styling, I did look much brighter and more attractive. I ran into Xiaoxing outside a clothing store. Perhaps influenced by the old lady's words, I ended up buying several outfits. After browsing, welcome to visit us again. As I was leaving the store with my bags, I bumped right into the cold-eyed Xiaoxing. Just one look from him could chill someone to the bone. The air turned biting, and suddenly it was quiet all around. Within seconds, he strode up to me and tightly grabbed my wrist, not letting go no matter how much I struggled. Xiaoxing looked me up and down, his face stern, and scoffed coldly. Dressed up so flamboyantly, you must have someone in mind, yet you still smile so brightly. Why do you frown when I appear, as if you despise me? Let go." His gaze was fierce, as if he wanted to tear me apart. Fearing that I might truly anger him, I stopped resisting and just stood there quietly, waiting for his reason to return. After a while, Xiaoxing's lost rationality seemed to return slightly. He held my head, looked into my eyes, and said hoarsely, "Liang Ji, I regret it. I regret divorcing you. I don't care about the child anymore. If we remarry, you can decide whether to have children or not. It's all up to you. I'll even fully support you if you want to work." Hearing this from Xiaoxing was a miracle in itself. After all, in my previous life, I made some money from stocks and used it to buy a shop and open a tea store, which he thought was me being wild. Seeing that I still couldn't break free, I turned my head away slightly in disgust, suppressing the anger in my heart, and endured before saying, "Xiaoxing, we are already divorced. We are now two unrelated individuals. You're not someone who can't accept defeat. You should move on." "But I just regret it. Liang Ji, can we start over?" His gaze shifted to me, his throat moved slightly, and he spoke with suppression. "I know I had many faults before, but believe me, I never thought of betraying you. The thing with Jiang Mengyao, I was momentarily blinded by a ridiculous sense of vanity, thinking only to satisfy it. I had stopped liking her long ago. She's been fired now, and I assure you she won't bother you again. When I married you, it was out of affection, nothing else." For a moment, I was silent, then looked up at him with a chilling calm and said, "Regret is meaningless now, for I no longer love you. A marriage without love is just an empty shell, merely for show." Counting my past life, I have endured over 2 decades of a marriage akin to widowhood. I've truly had enough. "Liang Ji," as a gentle male voice called out. I turned to see Jiang Yuan and his 4-year-old daughter Yaya standing at the corner of the store. "Daddy, it's Auntie." The little girl, holding a stick of candied ha, was about to run towards me, but Jiang Yuan quickly stopped her. Seeing the father and daughter like this, a flash of malice crossed Xiaoxing's eyes, and his lips curled into a sneer. "So there really is someone new. Liang Ji, you rejected me for such second-hand goods, willing to be a stepmother to someone else's child. How cheap." Xiaoxing blurted out impulsively. I took a deep breath, tilted my head back, and bluntly admitted, "You're right. I'd rather be a stepmother and have children for another man than be with you or have your children." Under Xiaoxing's icy and sinister gaze, I smiled silently. My words and demeanor were like a dagger to the heart, striking precisely at Xiaoxing's most painful spot. Sensing his relaxation, I tightly pursed my lips, prying his fingers off my arm one by one, then flung them away forcefully. On the way back, the atmosphere was somewhat awkward. After a moment, I explained, "That was my ex-husband. His thinking is a bit, that's why I said those things to chase him off. Don't take it to heart." I tapped my head, somewhat embarrassed. "I know, I didn't overthink it," Jiang Yuan replied with a gentle smile. Speaking of which, my acquaintance with Jiang Yuan began through his daughter. Only after getting to know him did I discover he was a university professor, one of the most promising young individuals in the area. His liking for books endowed him with the demeanor of a refined gentleman, full of scholarly charm, and he was also tall and handsome. If it hadn't been for his ex-wife insisting on a divorce to go abroad, their family of 3 would have been very happy. Lost in thought, I didn't notice the hesitant Jiang Yuan beside me until Yaya ran off to buy a popsicle. In the alley filled with children's laughter, Jiang Yuan suddenly stopped, turned to look at me, and started to speak. "Liang Ji, about what you said just now." Before he could finish, I exclaimed, "Ah, it's snowing again." I stretched out my hand, letting the snowflakes fall into my palm, too beautiful to brush away. "Do you know, it was only after coming here that I saw snow, a vast expanse of white. It's truly picturesque." Then, blinking, I smiled at him and said, "By the way, I'm moving. I bought a shop with living quarters on Huan Street and plan to do business there. Besides visiting the elderly, I likely won't come here much." "The little girl loves to play and eat. You should still keep an eye on her, especially since kidnappings are all too common these days." Jiang Yuan is such a clever person. He almost instantly understood everything when I spoke. After a while, he withdrew his gaze, turned his head to look at Yaya in front of him, and managed a slight smile, saying, "Then let me wish you prosperity in your business ahead of time. Thank you for your kind words." After finishing speaking, I walked over to the little girl, crouched down, and tucked a big red envelope into her pocket. After parting ways with them, I quickly walked into the courtyard where my grandmother lives and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Inside the house, My grandmother was lying on a rocking chair, listening to the radio. Hearing the noise, she turned her head, glanced at me, and asked with a smile, "Did you have fun today?" "Just now, Mrs. Lee came over and told me she saw you coming back with Jiang Yuan from next door. Are you too?" Before the old lady could finish, I hastily explained, "It's nothing like that, we just happened to meet on the road, and Yaya was with us too." Seeing my apprehensive demeanor, the old lady sighed and couldn't help but advise, "Actually, for someone like you who has been divorced and remarried, Jiang Yuan would be an excellent choice. Although he has a 4-year-old daughter, Yaya is well behaved and likes you very much, so you don't have to worry about potential difficulties in getting along. I've lived here for over 30 years and know the area well. Jiang's parents are reasonable, and Jiang Yuan himself is a good man. You're a woman, after all, there's no need to be overly assertive, you might consider it," knowing the old lady meant well, since most people's thinking was still quite limited compared to 20 years later, and the little girl was indeed well behaved. I still didn't want to become her stepmother. It was hard to speak harshly to the old lady, as she truly had my best interests at heart. As she said, Jiang Yuan and his family were indeed good people, but I wanted to live my life freely and without restraint, which meant no connection with him. So, I sat down, took her arm, and spoke frankly. Being with Jiang Yuan, no matter how good he and his family are, would mean compromising myself. Hearing this, the old woman was momentarily puzzled. I decided to be even more direct, hypothetically stating, if I were to marry Jiang Yuan, no matter how much Yaya liked me, he would have to balance my relationship with her. There will always be friction and disputes, and I don't think I can compete with a child. Besides, I am quite selfish and lack a spirit of sacrifice, especially when it comes to being a stepmother, which I'm not interested in. Educating a child is hard enough, even more so when they're not your own. And about Yaya's biological mother, she's just abroad. If she ever returns, no one knows how Jiang Yuan and Yaya would treat her. If they can't let go of her, what would my place be then? I'm really wary of dealing with first loves and ex-wives. Seeing the old lady about to persuade further, I earnestly said, remarrying has always been a complicated issue. Marrying a strong man feels like being consumed, and marrying a weaker one feels like a loss. Grandma, I'm a businesswoman and good at calculating costs, so I've never considered remarrying. Marriage is not the only path for a woman. I don't need to prove my worth through marriage anymore. I have money, property, and intelligence, and I certainly don't lack love. Finally, the old lady gave up trying to persuade me. She could see that I was living a fulfilled and happy life, and the mundane concerns of daily life no longer suited me. After opening up, I began to expand my business horizon, venturing into the fashion industry for real, without just dabbling in minor deals. As my business flourished, Xiaoxing resurfaced and began to harass me persistently. Despite his efforts, I never showed him any warmth. Whether he feigned drunkenness to whisper sweet nothings or resorted to self-suffering tricks, I treated him as nothing but a clown. After all, the hurt he had once caused me was very real. Even though the wounds had healed, the scars remained. I was never a fan of mending broken relationships. I preferred the turning of the tables, even to a destructive extent. Why should a mere apology from him, eyes red, compel me to forgive him as if nothing had happened? Seeing my increasingly cold glances, Xiaoxing stopped pressing me and switched to a more conciliatory approach. After earning enough money to ensure a comfortable life, I moved to a third-tier city and bought a villa with a large garden, where I started my secluded retirement, largely distancing myself from Xiaoxing. Since I didn't leave my house, he had no way to bother me. Thus, I ignored Xiaoxing for 20 years until the year he turned 45, when he was unexpectedly diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer. As Xiaoxing lay on his deathbed barely clinging to life, his family couldn't help but call me, but I never answered, even after the doctors declared him dead. As I said before, I truly never forgave him in his lifetime. **** In a separate event from the past ***, upon hearing the news of Liang Ji falling down the stairs and dying instantly, Xiaoxing and Xiaoani hurried back home. In the dimly lit room, as soon as Xiaoani entered, she saw Xiaoxing clutching their mother's corpse, losing his mind. "Liang Ji, stop pretending now. Isn't this what you wanted, for me to come back? Now that I'm here, how much longer will you keep this up? If you hadn't been so stubborn, growing more and more indifferent towards me, and always acting like nothing mattered, why would I have thought to provoke you with Jiang Mengyao?" Unable to stand Xiaoxing disrespecting their mother any longer, an infuriated Xiaoani pushed him away, protectively covering Liang Ji's body to prevent him from touching her. She spoke with disdain. My mother is dead. Who are you trying to impress with this act of passion? Just like Mom said, you really are despicable. Remembering everything that had happened, tears welled up in Xiaoani's eyes as she choked up. All she ever wanted while she was alive was a bit of respect from you, her husband. But what were you doing? You were busy being intimate with your close female friend. Don't say it was unintentional. Because you genuinely hurt her. If it hadn't been for me, worried that you and that woman would mistreat me, she would have left this place long ago to live a life without you. Her voice was filled with sorrow, determined not to let Xiaoxing off easily. She pulled off the jade bead bracelet from Liang Ji's wrist and pointed to an old but gruesome scar. This is what she did to herself after I was born, during a bout of postpartum depression and nervous breakdown. What were you doing then? You were busy complaining about her being unreasonable and not presentable. She clearly told you she was feeling unwell, but you never took it to heart. All of you just bullied her. Xiaoani broke down screaming. She knew she had lost the mother who loved her the most. I didn't know. He stuttered, unable to form a coherent response. Xiaoani frantically wiped her tears, but they only fell faster. Whenever Xiaoxing tried to come closer, she kicked and bit fiercely. Xiaoxing could barely contain his anger, wishing he could kill to vent his frustration. After Liang Ji's burial, Xiaoxing began to drown his sorrows in alcohol. 3 years later, weakened by his circumstances, he was sidelined by his daughter, Xiaoani, who took full control of the company's affairs. Since Xiaoxing's only child was Xiaoani, the company's board dared not object. Even if they were dissatisfied, they had to suppress their grievances. Having bided her time over the years, Xiaoani did not disappoint when she took over. She immediately began to overhaul the company, first by terminating the collaboration with Jiang Mingyao's company, then by withdrawing funds and citing severe excessive formaldehyde in the decorating materials to permanently cease cooperation. Being a decorating company less than a year old, it couldn't withstand such pressure from Xiaoani. Soon, the company faced various internal issues. Without Xiaoxing's backing and with clients afraid to engage their services, salaries went unpaid, staff protested, and Jiang Mengyao was in a state of constant panic. Left with no choice, Jiang Mengyao desperately sought Xiaoxing's help. Upon learning this, Xiaoani kicked open the door and slapped Jiang Mengyao across the face. I am now the one steering the Xiao Corporation. Aren't you always touting yourself as a clear-headed, independent woman? What now? Can't stand strong without a man. Xiaoani unleashed a torrent of sarcasm. Before Jiang Mengyao could defend herself, Xiaoani pointed at Xiaoxing and said, unfortunately, he's just a powerless old man now. If you really want to marry him, go ahead. After all, I've successfully taken over the company, and thanks to my mother's long-term care, he's no longer capable of having children. Having someone to care for him wholeheartedly without costing a penny, I, as his daughter, would be only too pleased. Her words left others in shock and brought wry smiles. He never believed in me from the start, Xiaoxing said bitterly, suddenly realizing that his life had become a joke over the years. Trust you? I'd sooner believe a sow could climb a tree. Xiaoani sneered. Greatly influenced by Liang Ji, Xiaoani chose to remain unmarried, opting instead to select quality sperm from a sperm bank for childbirth. Thus, both lived their lives in separate realities, each believing themselves to be truly happy. Xiaoxing was confined by Xiaoani to the villa where Liang Ji had lived. He was free to move around but forbidden from entering Liang Ji's room. According to Xiaoani, he was unworthy. Moreover, she consistently ignored his requests to be buried together with Liang Ji in his later years. You've disgusted my mother all her life. How could I possibly let you haunt her in the next life and soil her cycle of reincarnation? Xiaoxing left this world full of regrets. After an indeterminate amount of time, he opened his eyes to find himself young again. Unable to discern whether it was a dream or reality, he only knew Liang Ji was still alive, vibrant, and even more captivating than when he first met her. Due to some discrepancies, they were divorced, his daughter was gone, and their relationship had cooled to an icy low. Xiaoxing thought, as long as he was sincere and treated her well, she would eventually forgive him. But even when he was diagnosed with lung cancer, suffering terribly from chemotherapy, she showed no signs of softening. Only then did he fully understand that Liang Ji truly despised him. Story 2. In my previous life, I was in the 7th year of my relationship with my boyfriend when I died in a sudden flood. My soul lingered and stayed by his side. I watched him wander through his days and a days, breaking down into tears over the news of my death. I saw him abandon everything else and wither away, clinging to our memories until his last moments. As his life came to an end, He held a photo of me and vowed never to let go of my hand in the next life. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day of the flood, with the memories of my previous life. I managed to survive and eventually married him. However, the man who loved me so deeply in my past life that he could die of heartbreak betrayed me 5 years into our marriage. Just when I had become pregnant, I first saw them at the hospital lobby. The girl seemed to be injured. Haisuko rushed into the hospital with her in his arms, charging through the crowd as he shouted for people to make way. He was so panicked that he didn't see anyone else, not even me, so, when he ran past me, he accidentally bumped into me, causing me to lose balance and fall to the ground. My prenatal checkup papers were even stepped on by him. A nurse helped me up and picked up the papers, muttering, "Your girlfriend is precious, but someone else's wife and child are treasures too." After 7 years of dating and 5 years of marriage, I recognized him instantly, even just from his back. I had never seen the girl before. Perhaps she was a colleague, a friend, or maybe just an injured stranger he had met by chance on the street. For that moment, I believed in his love for me and trusted he wouldn't betray me. But something compelled me to follow them discreetly. At the orthopedic clinic, I saw them again as they entered the consultation room together. The door wasn't fully closed, so I stood by the doorway, peeking through the crack. The girl had injured her ankle and sat on a chair, sobbing continuously. A teardrop-shaped, crystal-clear necklace hung around her neck, shimmering beautifully. Haisuko sat beside the girl, holding her hand tightly, repeatedly comforting her in a soft voice. "It's just a minor sprain, it won't hurt." The girl was still scared, so Haisuko wrapped his arms around her. The doctor chuckled and teased, "Your little girlfriend is quite delicate." Haisuko laughed too, wiped her tears, and continued to coax her gently. "Yes, she's incredibly delicate, cries every day." Listening to Haisuko's words, the girl playfully acted angry and punched him several times in the chest. "Haisuko, if you find me annoying or too delicate, then just leave me alone." Haisuko shook his head, his smile affectionate. "Even if you're delicate, I still like it." With just a few simple words, he cheered up the girl and even made the doctor laugh. They looked just like a couple deeply in love, and there I was, standing still, feeling like a thief spying on someone else's happiness. I never imagined that Haisuko would betray me. We both had humble beginnings, abandoned by our biological parents and growing up as orphans. We first met in high school when he was mocked by others for being an orphan. He clenched his fists but dared not to retort, showing timidity and cowardice. The person reminded me of my former self, which is why I felt compelled to teach them a lesson. Back then, my classmates thought of me as a lunatic and my teachers saw me as a waste of space. Anyone who dared to bully me would face severe consequences. I told he Suichao, "So what if we're orphans? The director of the orphanage is like our mother, and the other kids there are our brothers and sisters. We have no reason to feel inferior." When I couldn't stand it anymore, I'd just throw a punch to shut them up. Suichao probably had never seen a girl as fierce as me before. He stood there stunned for a while, then hesitantly clenched his fists and swung at the air a couple of times. He asked me, "Is this how you throw a punch?" I laughed and said, "If you really can't fight, just find me. I'll fight for you." Since we were both orphans, I didn't charge him any money at first. It was just physical attraction, but over time, we found a deep connection. His face was distractingly handsome, and from the moment I met him, I was smitten. Our similar tragic backgrounds, from high school to university, from superficial appearances to sincere hearts, brought us closer. We experienced so much together and eventually fell deeply in love without reservations. If only I hadn't died in that flood, maybe we would have had a lifetime of happiness at least. That's what I always thought in my past life. I hate being constrained. Unlike Hisuicha's quiet demeanor, I always wanted to see the world's most beautiful sights, so my biggest motivation to earn money was to travel the world and free my spirit. However, during one of my trips, I encountered the flood that claimed my life. It all happened too suddenly. The bridge collapsed, the flood was fierce, and ultimately, it took many lives, including mine. When Suichao heard about the accident, he searched tirelessly for me for 7 whole days until my remains were unearthed. He sat on the ground, covered in mud, then broke down and wept. Afterward, he repeatedly cut his wrists, saying he didn't want me to be lonely in the afterlife, so he wanted to join me. He was hospitalized countless times. Eventually, it was the orphanage director who convinced him to carry on with the memory of me and to live. Well, Suichao survived, but he was like a walking corpse. He donated all his earnings to the orphanage. After abandoning everything, he just sat by my photo, living in sorrow for years. until he suddenly passed away at a young age. So, when I found out I had been reborn, I desperately escaped the flood that was meant to take my life, gave up my dream of traveling the world, and strived to live a stable life. Staying by his side and never leaving again, I thought we would live out this life simply and happily. But just 5 years later, he Sui Chao, who once loved me so much, cheated. This realization left me not just sad, but also in despair. Because I was pregnant, I gently touched my belly. This child was hard one. It was the baby he Sui Chao and I had longed for years. At first, when I was experiencing morning sickness, I thought it was just my body being weak, afraid it might end in disappointment. He didn't tell him right away. A person arrived at the hospital with a nervous heart, had their blood drawn, and then went to see the doctor. After scanning the medical record, the doctor smiled at me and said, "Congratulations, you're going to be a mother." At that moment, I was truly overjoyed, so overjoyed that I couldn't wait to get home. As soon as I left the consultation room, I wanted to share the good news with He Sui Chao, but I held back, because today was our 5th wedding anniversary. He Sui Chao had mentioned he had a gift for me, something he said I would really like. I had a good guess of what it might be. It was a crystal necklace I had long coveted but never managed to persuade the owner to sell to me. Last month, He Sui Chao had made a special trip abroad. Later, the owner sent me a message. She hinted subtly that my husband loved me very much, said she was willing to part with it, wishing me happiness. But now, that necklace was worn by someone else. It wasn't just the necklace. Now even He Sui Chao himself was no longer mine. I went home and sat on the sofa from day into night. The steak on the table had gradually cooled, but the person who was supposed to return never did. It wasn't until 11:52 He Sui Chao sent me a message, saying he had to go on a sudden business trip for work, and he was already abroad. He told me not to worry. He also said we would celebrate our anniversary when he returned, and he would make up for the gift then. But not everything can be redone. I blew out the candle and dumped the cold steak into the trash bin. Perhaps I was mentally prepared, so when I saw that message, I wasn't as upset as I expected. I even felt somewhat relieved to know first. That's why I didn't cook a candlelit dinner myself, but ordered from a well-reviewed restaurant, making sure to use He Sui Chao's card for the delivery. If he didn't come back, the destination of this delivery was the trash. Just like him, the dean's mother always said I was stubborn since I was young. If I wanted something, I would find a way to get it. But once I felt it wasn't that important anymore, no matter how deeply I loved it before, I could let go without clinging. I glanced at the time. It was exactly midnight. I sat on the sofa, looking out towards the balcony, seeing nothing but the dark sky. I remembered adding the doctor's contact information when I returned from the hospital. He mentioned he would be on duty these days. Whether I wanted this child or not, I could tell him in advance, so I sent him a message. I asked him, if I decide on an abortion, could you schedule the procedure soon? The doctor replied quickly. He said, if you decide and after a checkup shows no issues, the earliest we can schedule an abortion is next Tuesday. If you're sure, come to the hospital and see me. I gently touched my lower abdomen. Child, forgive me. If there isn't a happy family waiting for you, it's better to leave early and find another mom and dad. At least, it wouldn't be so painful. Before the surgery could even be arranged, I received an invitation from my alma mater. He Sui Chao and I didn't attend the same university. We lived at opposite ends of the same city, and could only meet on weekends. Each time we met, he would bring me green grape cakes, and I would buy him osmanthus-flavored milk tea, a specialty of my school. He Sui Chao was rather delicate in his tastes. He liked his milk tea very sweet, detested being out in the wind and sun, and couldn't handle the slightest hardship. That's why it's hard for me to forget the year when he found out I had an accident. He dug with his bare hands for 7 days and nights, his fingers raw and bleeding, his hands a mess of blood and mud. It pained my heart, because the He Sui Chao I remember truly loved me deeply. However, that relationship eventually couldn't withstand the test of time. I accepted the invitation from my alma mater, but I never expected to see them again at the school. After finishing my speech on stage, a girl stood up and asked me a question with a microphone in hand. Hello, senior, I'm a junior in the journalism department. Lumanman, my question today isn't directly related to my major, but I wonder if you're still willing to answer. I nodded, noticing the challenge in her eyes. So, she knew who I was. Lumanman smiled slightly. I heard that you were a well-known journalist and later returned to family life for love. You've been married for 5 years. Are you happy? Are you afraid of the 7-year itch? I gripped the microphone, trying to control my emotions. I used to be a rebellious student, unafraid of anyone or anything, but After a near-death experience and seeing He Sui Chao devastated by my death, I decided to soften my edges and become a gentle, intellectual woman, but this doesn't mean I'm willing to tolerate provocation, so I simply responded with a light laugh. Love is unpredictable by nature. As for the 7-year you mentioned, I always believe a man who is responsible for his family will not cheat. If that day does come, all I can say is that he and that mistress would deserve each other. I paused, then looked at Lu Man, who seemed a bit pale. I asked her, Lu, as a fellow woman, do you think someone who becomes the other woman has any dignity, under everyone's gaze? She naturally couldn't say that only those who aren't loved are mistresses, as that would definitely provoke backlash. She could only grit her teeth, nod difficultly, and force a smile, perhaps frustrated. Lu Man couldn't help but add, but if that day really comes, as a wife, I think she's also quite useless. For not being able to keep her husband's heart, I laughed. That's still better than knowingly being a mistress, willing to settle for leftovers without considering if they're tainted. People like that are merely picking up what others have discarded and are smug about it. Of course, men like that are no better, easily swayed by a mere gesture. How is that different from me throwing a bone to a stray dog, which then wags its tail at me? Then, pretending to be shocked, I covered my mouth with my hand. My mistake. How could I compare stray dogs with cheating men? Dogs are loyal companions to humans, while cheaters and mistresses, the trash of society, not even worth a second glance because it's so filthy. Junior sister Lu, do you think I'm right? I looked at Lu Man with a smile, my pride not allowing me to show even a hint of vulnerability in front of her. The long-lost fierceness felt surprisingly comforting. Perhaps, from the start, I shouldn't have tried to change myself for He Sui Chao, but in this silent battle, none of us won. He Sui Chao cheated. That just proves he didn't love me enough, so I didn't win. Lu Man knew it all along and was still proud, but she's destined to be despised, which also doesn't count as winning. Both of us have failed, but I have a clear conscience. I loved He Sui Chao sincerely and fervently. He betrayed me, and Lu Man knew everything, so I'm not the one at fault. They are. After finishing my speech, I walked off the stage. Perhaps it was on purpose. From a distance, I saw Lu Man, and He Sui Chao with his back to me. He held a large bouquet of roses, bent over, and pinched her face, but Lu Man looked greatly wronged and cried in his arms. He Sui Chao held her, repeatedly soothing her in a gentle voice. I stood still. Lu Man seemed to glance at me, then looked at He Sui Chao, and spoke loudly enough for me to hear. She asked, Sui Chao, why are you so good to me? He Sui Chao wiped the tears from her eyes, his tone still gentle. He said, have you forgotten? I told you about a dream I had repeatedly before meeting you. In the dream, there was a girl who fell into water, and I desperately tried to save her, but she disappeared. I was very sad in the dream, so sad I almost wanted to die. Then I met you, and the first time we met, you accidentally fell into the water, and you really resembled that girl. Maybe, you are the girl from my dream, and our meeting was fate. So, it turned out to be this way. I stood there, unsure whether to laugh or cry. With the memories of my past life, I knew this was not just a dream, but a real pain I had experienced in my previous life. Are his memories of his past life gradually returning? He Sui Chao said he loved the girl in his dream, and then fell in love with Lu Man, but he doesn't know. The girl in the dream was me. But now, what does it matter? The betrayal is a fact. Suddenly, a sharp pain surged in my abdomen. I couldn't help but bend over, clutching my stomach in excruciating pain. Lu Man laughed, tiptoed to embrace He Sui Chao, and provocatively looked at me. She asked He Sui Chao, who is more important to you, me or Wen Qian? He Sui Chao didn't have time to answer because suddenly, I felt a warm flow surge out, sliding down my legs. There were exclamations, nervousness, and people rushing to help me, and at this moment, someone turned their head. As our eyes met, panic was all I could see in his. Wen Qian. I stood still, watching him sprint toward me. I've always wanted to know. One day, when he finds out that the girl in his dreams is me, what would his expression be? He approached me quickly, his expression filled with panic. Qian, why are you here? I wore a long black dress today that reached my ankles. At that moment, I felt a sharp pain in my lower abdomen. Blood trickled down my legs, staining my white shoes red as it dripped to my ankles. The passing classmates couldn't help but gasp when they saw this, but he merely turning around by chance after hearing the commotion, had just noticed me. He didn't see that I was bleeding. His eyes flitted anxiously between me and Lu Man. Qian, this is a misunderstanding. Actually, today I have, Before he could finish, Lu Man suddenly fell to the ground not far from us. A cry of alarm. This made He, who was still trying to explain in panic, immediately forget to cover up and ran straight to her. Man, are you okay? He helped her up. I could see that Lu Man had a severe scrape on her knee, now swollen and bleeding profusely. Looking quite serious, Lu Man shook her head, our eyes meeting as she shed a couple more tears. It hurts a bit. Can you take me to the medical office first? He's spine stiffened suddenly. Perhaps it was only then he realized that his wife, whom he had officially married, was standing not far away, watching him fuss over another woman. He turned around, his expression apologetic. I'll take Man to the hospital first. Let's talk when I get back tonight. He didn't give me a chance to speak. After saying this, he carried Lu Man away without looking back. From beginning to end, he never saw that at this very moment, I was bleeding, losing our child. I took a deep breath as the pain in my lower abdomen intensified. I could feel the child slipping away from me. The pain almost made me unable to stand. I grabbed a passing student by the hand. Excuse me, could you please call 120 for me? I was in unbearable pain. The child was gone. The doctor said the pregnancy was weak to begin with, and coupled with my anxiety, it couldn't be saved. She even tried to comfort me by saying there would be other chances in the future, but honestly, I wasn't that upset. I had already decided not to keep the baby. The miscarriage due to an accident was just another way to achieve the result I wanted. Perhaps, the child also felt that being born into a broken home would have been suffocating regardless. The only connection between he and me in this world was now completely severed. Because of the miscarriage, I stayed in the hospital overnight and received no calls or messages from he. This meant that not only did he not come home last night, but he was also with Lu Man all along. I recovered quickly due to my youth and could go home the next day. I didn't bring much with me, and when I left cleanly. Apart from myself, there is nothing else. It must be fate, or perhaps even the heavens couldn't stand to watch. They wanted me to make a decision quickly, so, at the turn of the hospital corridor, I bumped into He, who was in a hurry. He was holding a pink water bottle and a bag of breakfast, though he had changed his clothes and wasn't wearing the white shirt from yesterday. Some things, if you think too deeply about them, only bring discomfort, but fate had it otherwise. He froze, trying to hide the water bottle and breakfast, but he realized that this action was somewhat childish. Panic mixed with guilt, and in those few seconds, I watched him make numerous vain gestures. In the end, he just smiled, a guilty smile. He asked me, Qian, what brings you to the hospital? Is there something you need to do here? His question made me laugh out loud. Really, I couldn't control my laughter. I told him, something to do? I came here for fun. Does that sound believable to you? He's expression became serious. Silently, he said, don't beat around the bush. Let's solve whatever it is. You go home first. I promise I'll be there before noon, and we can talk about everything else later. Why put it off? Are you in a hurry to bring your little lover breakfast? It was early morning, and the hospital corridor was already bustling with people. People love gossip. At the mention of a little lover, they were all ears, looking back every few steps. He under the scrutiny of curious gazes, his ears turned red. When Qian is not what you think, and Man and I are just ordinary friends, don't think of others so vilely. When did you become so unreasonable? Look, every man caught cheating, even faced with undeniable evidence, still tries to deflect blame as if self-deception could alleviate his guilt. But before I could speak, a door to a nearby ward opened, and Lu Man limped out. She was wearing a hospital gown, but as a college freshman, she couldn't hide her youthful vitality. Lu Man approached me with an innocent smile. Qian, you must have misunderstood. Senior, we are just ordinary friends. We met at school because of my studies. If you have any grievances, feel free to vent them on me, but please don't embarrass him in front of so many people. Okay, such an understanding little lover. No wonder he was fond of her. But at that moment, the only thing I wanted was to divorce He. Lu Man is just a sophomore. If her classmates and teachers knew that she, who looks decent, is involved with a married man, how could she face anyone at school? I spoke softly, but loud enough for both of them to hear clearly. The moment my words fell, I saw the expressions on both Lu Man's and He's faces change dramatically, especially Lu Man, her composure replaced by nervousness and fear. She dropped her pleasant facade and directly challenged me. Are you planning to ruin me at school? When Qian, you're too malicious. He's chimed in, yes, that's too harsh. Qian, why must you act like this? Man and I are just friends. Don't spread rumors and tarnish a young girl's reputation so carelessly. don't you think? You're being too harsh. If it weren't for the fact that I haven't hit anyone in years, and if it weren't for my current physical weakness, I would really like to scratch his face right now, but it's not too late, there will be an opportunity. I took several deep breaths. There was still a dull pain in my abdomen, and I dared not breathe too deeply. I just quietly watched Hisui face the exposure of his clumsy lies. 5 days ago, I came to the hospital and saw you rushing in with her in your arms, admitting in front of the doctor that you two are a couple. Yesterday, you said you were going on a business trip, but instead, you went to the school and were seen cuddling with Lu Man. Hisui, I'm not blind, I can see. If you had simply admitted it, I might have respected you more, but instead, you fabricate so many lies, pinning baseless accusations on me, calling me malicious and bad. Don't you think that's despicable? Saying this, I felt somewhat sad. The person I once loved so deeply, who could have died for me, who could have lived in melancholy for a lifetime, in the end, without those hindrances and stumbling blocks, our feelings seem worthless. Between parting in life and death, one can't have it all. Maybe I'm just as those classmates used to say, born under an unlucky star, and thus doomed to unhappiness. I tried to control my emotions and keep a calm appearance. Hisui, it has come to this point. What's the use of continuing to hide the truth? Perhaps my words were too straightforward. Hisui, who had been vehemently denying everything, finally fell silent. He knows in his heart whether I am lying or deceiving him. He looked up at me, his arrogance subdued, his face filled with emotion and guilt. He opened his mouth to explain, but I stopped him first. I don't want this to get uglier. Since it has come to this, let's get a divorce. As soon as I finished speaking, I saw Lu Man laughing. Hisui actually hesitated and seemed incredulous. When Xian, we've known each other for so many years, do you really want a divorce just like that? Don't you have a heart? What else? I found it ridiculous. Otherwise, should I just keep our marriage, while you keep a mistress outside? Maybe when she gets tired of you, you'll find someone new, and me, I should just sit at home waiting for you, crying every day. Would that make me a person with a heart? After saying this, I made one last request. In this marriage, you are the one at fault, so you must leave with nothing. Do you have a problem with that? I'm not foolish. What's gone is gone, but the savings we've built up over the years, the comfortable life we've finally achieved, I can't just hand that over too. How could this be possible? Lu Man objected without thinking, holding tightly to Hisui's hand, then began to stir the pot. Sui Chao, after all these years of hard work, how can you give all your money to someone else? How are we supposed to live after that? I laughed. Didn't you fall for him because he's good at making money? If that's the case, then why don't you start from scratch with him? Or do you just want to reap the benefits without going through the struggle? Putting someone on a pedestal like this makes it hard for them to step down without losing face. Even if they feel irritated, they have no choice but to grit their teeth and agree. Just like now, Lu Man gritted her teeth and sneered. I love Hisui Chao the person, not his money. Even if he ends up with nothing, I'm willing to support him in making a comeback. It's just heartbreaking and feels so undeserved that he ended up marrying a woman like you who only cares about money. Seeing money and opening your eyes is still better than deceiving yourself and others, I responded softly, then took out my phone from my pocket and played the video I recorded yesterday. Before coming to the hospital yesterday, I made a point to get a video from one of the onlooking students. The video was comprehensive, documenting the entire incident. I played the video directly for them. My demands are only two. First, to divorce Hisui Chao. Second, for Hisui Chao to leave without taking anything. If these demands are not met, I cannot guarantee where this video will end up. Pushed to this point, Lu Man became somewhat uncontrollable, reaching out to snatch my phone, but I dodged her in time. Lu Man, since you did it, you must be brave enough to face the consequences. Don't think about using excuses later on. We're both journalism students. We know how powerful words can be. We also know that even without verification, enough voices can crush someone. Moreover, you both know very well whether you have done something against morals, don't you? It wasn't a threat, it was a fact, their fault. With the video in hand, even if just for Lu Man's reputation, Hisui Chao had no choice but to compromise and apply for a divorce at the Civil Affairs Office. As expected, there was a 30-day cooling-off period. Hisui Chao, I don't care if you choose to wander or stay with another woman. From today on, the house we lived in is mine, and you have no part in it. After these 30 days, we'll be divorced, and I don't want any contact ever again. Let's act as if we never knew each other. I've never been one to cling to my ex or keep in touch after a breakup. Once I decide to cut ties, it's for life. Never to see each other again. He Sui Chao didn't respond immediately. He glanced at Lu Manman, who was still waiting in the car, his expression complex. Qian, does it really have to be this way? He spoke with a sad tone, as if the wrongdoer was me. It was you who cheated, and now you ask me this. Don't you find yourself too hypocritical? I would have respected him more if he had openly admitted to falling in love with Lu Manman and agreed to leave everything behind, never to see me again. That way, at least he'd be straightforward about his feelings. But now, I only felt more disappointed. Perhaps that summer when I saw him being bullied, I shouldn't have helped, only to end up sacrificing myself. After parting unhappily at the entrance of the Civil Affairs office, I didn't go home. Instead, I checked into a hotel, planning to stay for a month, and hired a caretaker. Having just had a miscarriage, even with a strong constitution, I needed proper rest. The hotel allowed cooking, and the caretaker would come 3 times a day to prepare meals and clean. I spent my days lying in bed, browsing my phone, looking at landscapes from around the world, reawakening my long silent heart. If I had never met He Sui Chao, I should be traveling the world, seeing every mountain, river, and stream, rather than mourning my lost love in a hotel room. She didn't persist too much but wanted to make her presence felt around me, so she added me on WeChat using a secondary account without revealing her identity directly. However, my intuition told me that this suggestive yet unfamiliar account must belong to her. Moments on WeChat. June 24. He wasn't in high spirits today, but with me by his side, he managed to smile. Photo, a half-smiling face. June 25. The weather was great today. I convinced him to take me to the amusement park. He admitted he was a bit scared of heights, but I confidently assured him that I could protect him. It felt great to be able to protect the one I love. Photo, a carousel with us making heart shapes together. June 26. It drizzled a bit, so we stayed in bed all day and watched a bunch of movies. Photo, a messy bed. July 24. Everything ends tomorrow. After that, it will just be us, no one else. Photo, a victory sign. Sitting on the couch, I took screenshots of these 20+ moments and saved them all. When I got to the last one, I paused, couldn't help but zoom in on the photo, and clearly saw the layout of the room behind her. It suddenly struck me as ridiculous. He Sui and I had chosen every brick and tile of that home together, not to mention the familiar sofa and the furniture I had carefully selected. No one knew it better than I did. At this moment, Lu Manman was lying on my couch, sleeping where I once slept. It was nauseating. I ran out of bed barefoot, covering my mouth, and rushed to the bathroom to throw up, but nothing came out, just the discomfort of dry heaving. Tomorrow would be the day I could finally get a divorce, so I didn't make a scene but waited for dawn. Waiting for the encounter in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau. He Sui was punctual. He wore a white shirt today and his hair was meticulously styled, clearly prepared for the occasion. I sneered, dressing so formally. Too bad divorce and marriage can't happen on the same day. My sarcastic tone made passers-by glance over. He Sui pursed his lips, staring at me for a long while until I walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau. Then, he suddenly called out to me, Qian. I paused, and he continued, I never wanted a divorce. How ridiculous. He betrays me and then says he doesn't want a divorce. Does he expect to have it all his way? He Sui strode up to me, earnestly saying, we've been together since high school, supporting each other all these years. I truly love you. Regarding Manman, I don't know how to explain it to you. It's an obsession that has seeped into my bones. If I don't act on it, it leaves me restless and sleepless. Qian, you haven't experienced this helplessness, this obsession. You don't understand how I feel. No, I understand. I've seen his helplessness, known his obsessions. That's why I was willing to give up my dreams, to cut off my own wings, just to stay by his side, guarding the peaceful happiness he desired most, to be the perfect wife in his heart. But what was the result? I couldn't help but close my eyes. Perhaps there was still a trace of malice in my heart. The conversation about past lives has become increasingly clear to He Sui Chao. He is starting to match many details and might soon remember everything. But what would the scene look like when he realizes the person he loves is not the one beside him? Considering what has been said today, I am curious and waiting for that day to arrive. However, I must first hold my ground, for I need to divorce first, and without the legal status of marriage, I will simply be myself. The divorce procedure wasn't complicated. In no time, I had the divorce certificate in hand, freeing myself from the identity of He Sui Chao's wife. Leaving the Civil Affairs office, I directly got into He Sui Chao's car. He was startled, and I looked at him and said, I want to go back to the house we used to live in. Aren't you going there too? All the property was agreed to be mine, including that house. However, he had let Lu Man Man move in while I was away. Seeing my discovery, He Sui Chow quickly explained, Man Man had some conflicts with her roommates these past few days. Her family is out of town, and she, being young and without much money, couldn't afford a hotel. Since you weren't coming home for a while, I thought it'd be okay for her to stay there temporarily. I even reminded her to pack up her things and return to school today. He said this so naturally, not seeing anything wrong with the situation. If I would have been upset about this in the past, now, it was anger after disappointment, intense anger. I couldn't help but rub my eyes. Perhaps I was blind before, having fallen in love with someone I shouldn't have, or maybe being reborn wasn't about fixing past regrets but to show me that my relationship with He Sui Chow was doomed to parting by death or separation, never to be fully realized, so I shouldn't force it. Thus, I didn't speak but followed him back to the house. I no longer wanted to call it a home. When I rang the doorbell, Lu Man Man came running barefoot to open the door, wearing my pajamas. She was even holding my favorite doll, appearing at the door with a playful expression. Sui Chow, you're back. But before she could finish, she saw me standing behind him. She was startled and retorted, what are you doing here? According to the divorce agreement, He Sui Chow left with nothing. This house naturally belongs to me, so, she was intruding. Hearing this, Lu Man Man's eyes teared up immediately, and she looked timidly at He Sui Chow, quickly starting to cry. Sui Chow, I've talked to my roommates, they still don't want me back at school. I have nowhere else to go. If I can't stay here a bit longer, I'll really be left homeless. All of He Sui Chow's assets, including several properties we owned together, were now in my name. He had nothing, and had even rented a place with his salary paid in advance, but it surely wasn't as comfortable as this house. Lu Man Man was trying to argue for her significance right in front of me, as if that would prove her importance. Just like now, He Sui Chow looked at her, his eyes wavering, but ultimately he couldn't help but say to me, Qian, I've given you all the money and houses, but she has nowhere to go. Could you let her stay a few more days? Just a few days, without a second thought. I immediately agreed. My straightforward response took He Sui and Lu Man Man by surprise, but I didn't do anything else. I just went back to my bedroom, claiming I needed to take some important documents, and then left the room under their watchful eyes, calm and composed. After that, I went to Lu Man Man's university. It was also my alma mater. Familiar with the place, I knew when the office was busiest and when classmates would likely appear. I brought with me the video I had obtained that day, and also, after returning to my room earlier, I had secretly installed a camera. Over the past hour, they had been coming in and out of the room, embracing and kissing. The evidence was overwhelming, yet I said nothing, just played the video on my phone on loop. Then I sat in a chair, crying silently. The office was bustling, and students frequently came to see the counselor or handle paperwork. At those moments, I would lift my phone higher to make sure everyone could see. Oh, and there was the ultrasound report and the proof of my miscarriage. I had clearly marked the dates. Every single piece of evidence was undeniable. When I got to the airport, He Sui called me. As soon as I answered, I heard his roaring voice. Qian, I never thought you could be such a venomous woman. You had promised me that as long as I agreed to leave everything behind, you wouldn't release that video. Yet, you went straight to Man Man's school and ruined her reputation. You're a woman yourself. You know how important reputation is to a woman. Don't you think you're being too harsh? And to install cameras in the room, your actions constitute an invasion of privacy, a violation of mine and Man Man's rights to our images. According to the law, I can sue you. And, Qian, you've driven Man Man to the brink of suicide by jumping into the river. Do you know that, if you have even a shred of decency left, go back to the school now and clarify things, claim it was all a misunderstanding, and help restore her reputation. Otherwise, I will call the police. I rubbed my ears. His yelling had been loud and painful. I told him, you've already signed the divorce papers. According to the law, that house is mine, so what's wrong with installing surveillance in my own home? You couldn't resist being affectionate in what used to be my bedroom. I happened to see it, and naturally, I had to seek an explanation from her school, didn't I? Also, I did promise you before, but I indeed changed my mind. What can you do about it? Call the police. Go ahead. He Sui, don't tell me, with all your education, you can't see right from wrong. If you call the police, who do you think will end up embarrassed? I think you know that better. In this relationship, I am not at fault. and I bear no responsibility for it, but he sway, you have completely shattered the love I once had for you in my heart, so I made that call. Hello. I need to send an express SF shipment, one that can arrive today, regarding the items. I had divided them into 2 parts and had already placed them at the courier station. One part was sent to Yi Sui Chao, containing 2 documents, a medical record confirming a pregnancy and another documenting a miscarriage. I have clearly marked the dates on them, which I believe he remembers. The other part, which is more significant, contains a USB drive sent to Yi Sui Chao's rival at the same company. After that, I turned off my phone, packed my luggage, and went to another city. I thought about it for a long time. The bond with Yi Sui Chao deepened because of that flood. Similarly, in my previous life as a spirit, I stayed by Yi Sui Chao's side and remembered most of what happened in the following years. For instance, in 2 months, this city will experience heavy rainfall followed by a major flood, though not as severe as the one 5 years ago. Still, it will cause considerable damage, collapsing houses, and resulting in deaths. Knowing the time and place, I came here and wrote many anonymous letters, ensuring my own safety, and sent them to the local emergency management bureau. I researched extensively and wrote the letters formally, suggesting preemptive warnings and precautions, advising the evacuation of residents to minimize casualties. In short, I did my utmost to save those people, and I never left. During this time, Yi Sui Chao called me many times, but I did not answer. I didn't read any of his messages either. After so many years together, understanding each other's personalities well, the package I sent the day I left was enough to leave him with a lifetime of guilt. The child that was once eagerly anticipated. The day she was discovered, her father was with another woman, and the day she left, her father also abandoned her mother, taking another woman with him. So, guilt, a troubled conscience indeed. He called and repeatedly said sorry in his messages, ultimately to make himself feel better. And why should I give him that chance? I am somewhat spiteful, unable to learn forgiveness, only wishing that he is unhappy for the rest of his life. But I never expected that there would come a day when we would meet again. On the day of the flood outbreak, official evacuations had already been arranged, yet some people refused to leave, needing help. I used my memories from a past life to locate those who had been trapped for a long time. I went days and nights without sleep. Just when I thought it was almost over, I realized the last person I saved was Yi Sui Chao. He was clinging to a piece of driftwood, having swallowed several mouthfuls of water, continually calling for help. He was also holding a child, who wore a blue dress and clung tightly around his neck, crying in fear. I am somewhat spiteful and wanted to ignore him, but I couldn't pretend not to see the child. Over these 5 years, I had learned to swim and picked up some life-saving skills these past few days, successfully rescuing them. The moment I was saved, Yi Sui embraced me tightly. Qian, I remember everything now. Outside the hospital, Yi Sui stood in front of me. He was still in his wet clothes, looking disheveled and miserable. Qian, when did you remember? I interrupted him before he could continue. Yi Sui opened his mouth, then couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. He said, I've been having dreams about it for a long time. Later, when I met Lu Man, I thought she was the girl in my dreams. Then, when we were about to divorce, I dreamt almost every night, but I couldn't make out the face in my dreams. After getting the divorce papers, Lu Man jumped into the river, and I jumped in after her. That night I got a high fever and was hospitalized. Then I saw the medical report you sent, and that night I dreamt a lot. I still couldn't see the face clearly, but I was sure the girl in my dreams wasn't Lu Man. Later, some memories slowly started to come back. This city was about to flood. I wasn't sure if it was real or just a dream, so I wanted to verify it, and indeed, I encountered the flood. When I was swept into the flood, I saw a little girl in a blue dress, much like the girl from my dreams. At that moment, I closed my eyes, and your image appeared in front of me. He paused, then suddenly laughed, as if mocking himself. Then, it was like a lifetime passed in my mind, and this lifetime, I begged for a long time, to finally achieve completeness, but in the end, I still lost it. By the end of his words, Yi Sui was in tears, his eyes a mix of resentment and sorrow as he tried to reach out to touch me, but I avoided his touch. Yi Sui, I also thought this lifetime was a chance given by fate for you, but I never imagined, maybe this is fate telling me that separation by death is our destined outcome. In death, we remain in each other's memories as the beautiful images we once were, but now that we are both alive, the sacred feelings we once held have been degraded by you. Yi Sui, regret isn't enough to start over again. There's no future for us. When he claimed to be Lu Manman's boyfriend when I was pregnant, yet he found excuses to be with Lu Manman when I had a miscarriage, and he was still with Lu Manman and many other nights that I didn't know about. Those disgusting nights are absolutely intolerable. Listening to my words, tears slid down He Sui's face as he shook his head incessantly. Qian, I just chose the wrong person. But from the beginning to the end, I loved you, so what? Should I just forgive your betrayal? But I couldn't do it, couldn't be magnanimous and forgive him who once betrayed me, so I told him, because you betrayed me first, I want you to leave with nothing, and I even used your worst enemy to make you completely lose your job. All your efforts over the years are destroyed, and now you have nothing. This is your punishment, and all your current pain and regret, every night for the rest of your life. You will remember them in your midnight dreams. He Sui, I will not forgive you, and neither will the child who was supposed to come into this world and leave. From now on, you will live a life of pain and regret. I plan to continue pursuing my own dreams, traveling the world. I've seen it all. With a hefty balance in my bank account, I have enough to support my dreams without struggling in place. Occasionally, I receive news from old acquaintances. He Sui Chao and Lu Manman ultimately broke up. I caused a scene at her school, and given her already strained relationship with her roommate. Her roommate took advantage of the situation. The entire school ended up knowing about it, and it even became a hot topic in our city. The high level of discussion led to Lu Manman being persuaded to leave the school and return to her hometown. The girl who once stayed up late night after night solving problems, striving to escape the mountains and change her fate, has returned to square one. As for He Sui Chao, he had already made many enemies in the business world. Now, someone has seized the initiative, crushing him completely without any chance of a comeback. It's safe to say his chances of rising again are gone. Later, I vaguely heard news about him. It was said that he was targeted for revenge, with many needles stabbed into him, leaving him bleeding profusely and terrifying passers-by. After being rushed to the hospital, the rescue was too late. He became paralyzed in all limbs, a complete invalid. But none of this concerns me. I am in another country, in a place where spring is in bloom, watching the rivers flow and the mountains stand majestic. My life, perhaps, is just beginning.